Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Transatlantic Call-In Show. This is the place where you get to call and ask all of your questions, anything and everything trans-related to trans people. So if you are an ally who has an uncomfortable question, or maybe you are a trans person who has some what you think leftists might consider regressive views about trans people, feel free to call in. We'd be happy to talk to you and try to navigate our way to some understanding. I am Arden Hart, and with me is, of course, Luxander. What's up, Lux?
Hello. The sky is blue. The earth keeps turning, although at varying speeds, apparently. I feel like every day I get a new article in my feed about the earth is slowed down slightly or it's sped up slightly. And I'm like, that's too weird of a problem to think about.
Yeah, for real. Like we already have many existential problems to be concerned about. The speed of the Earth's rotation. I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson did a video about that, and he was basically like, calm down. It's not a big deal, actually. There's lots of reasons this could be happening.
And it seems like it happens regularly enough that it is not of concern. So
yeah. Well, I just got back from the Secular Student Alliance convention in Cincinnati last weekend, which was really cool. It's so many of their student activists are super pro-trans. I mean, to be honest, like a very large portion of them are queer themselves, way more than the general public, which isn't surprising. But it was really cool. A lot of them are really excited and motivated to try to start engaging in these conversations more. Although I did talk to a lesbian couple who told me that one of them has a little brother who is trans, who I shouted you out in the opening segment there, who has some regressive views about trans people. And they were like, oh, like, I don't know what to do. Like, it's, I want to say something, but also he is trans. So like, it's kind of a weird conversation for them to engage in. And I was like, you should have him call into the show. I'd love to talk to him. So if you're out there listening, I hope you call in. I think we could have an interesting conversation and hopefully a respectful one. But no promises. If you come in swinging, I'm going to swing back. But yeah, it was super interesting. And I'm going to Nashville this weekend. I'm so sick of traveling. I'm so tired, but to do the Nashville Nuns Convention, and Dr. Ben's going to be there. Durante Lamar is going to be there. Seth Andrews, and a number of other people. The president of the American Humanist Association is going to be there. And guys, I spent a lot of time talking to people from American Humanist Association this past weekend. I love what they're doing. They've got so much cool stuff in the works, trying to get young people engaged and trying to help boost like left-leaning progressive humanist creators, which is really, really exciting. So I'm really looking forward to some of the stuff they got coming out of there. But yeah, I don't know. What's up with you, Lex? You got anything new or interesting you want to share with the audience?
I mean, I have been taking some time off social media, and I highly recommend it. Literally anything else you could be doing with that time is time well spent. Even if you're just like, I'm going to work on my watercolors. What do I have? I have my calligraphy book out right now. I got out my ink pen just to kind of dick around with it for a little while. I think I wrote the phrase "beautiful butts are everywhere" just while I was mindlessly writing with my pen.
I love it.
Literally, yeah. Anything you do with your time is more valuable than spending it scrolling, like doom scrolling, especially. But yeah. So I'm working on a Mulan video that's taking longer than I anticipated. I am trying to riff and just kind of go like, whatever. This is my thoughts on the movie. But then I was like, this movie requires like a script, and it requires more thought to say what I want to say. So. Ooh, I'm giving myself more work, but hopefully it's going to be a fun thing when it's done. That's all that's going on with me right now.
Totally. Yeah, no, that's exciting. I love Mulan. That is such a, between dragons and the gender stuff, I feel like it has a gravitational pull on the trans community to a certain degree. Yeah, so that's super interesting. Definitely seconding getting off social media when you can. I don't know if you all saw James Tellerico, a state rep here in Texas, was on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about social media algorithms, and he is definitely very liberal and not my favorite out there, but he was talking a lot about how social media algorithms are like designed to be addictive and to fuel hate, because I mean, anger is what gets people super plugged in. And he's super spot on, and I would love to see. I went on a kick for a while of trying to not engage with rage bait and stuff, but it just feels like while this system is in place, it feels like you have to participate to some degree to get any kind of messaging out, but also I hate it. And I'm like, I really wish it were not this way. So, yeah, I would love to see some changes like that, seeing more politicians talking about that and advocating for it. But speaking of politicians, that's a good segue to get us to our weekly polls. And before we take our first call, so let's check out what y'all talked about last week. So it says, is it time for Canada and other countries to accept trans refugees from America? 91% said yes, 9% said no, 10,000 votes, 577 upvotes, and 547. I haven't looked at most of the comments. I don't know if you had gotten... I've
got it open. I mean, it seems like most of the people are just like, it's terrible we even have to ask this question, or, emphatically agreeing that it is not safe in America. Yeah. I don't really know what the disagreeers are saying.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, our audience a lot will do this thing where they're like, no, it's not time now because it's time yesterday. So I said no. And I'm like, okay, you guys are like the actual most annoying people.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if some of the no's are kind of in that vein. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I know a lot of people have been talking about like the Spanish or the Spain has like a digital nomad visa that's really flexible, has like it's easier to get than maybe some other countries, and so a lot of people are trying to explore other options for getting the fuck out while you still can. But I think also many of us are, I have come to the accepting that I will likely not be leaving the US. I will either be, I would like to say I'm going to die of old age here, being like, oh, I remember when we were very scared about what was going to happen, but look at me, I'm all wrinkly. But the reality is it's, probably going to be more gruesome than that. If it's not by Trump, it's going to be climate change. So sorry, I'm being so negative today. This is where I'm at, y'all. I'm really sorry.
It's kind of depressing sometimes. That's why I moved where I moved, is like, I don't plan on leaving the country. I just want to pick a blue bastion and hunker down. And climate change is another big reason why I decided to move here. It's like, yes, we do have some 90-degree days during the summer. Yes, we have a fire season. But we're in a good spot, and like a good, our elected representatives actually do things that make sense. So we're in a good spot in that regard of like, we can make progress on some of these things. It feels like it's not the end of the world here, but also I'm very close to Canada. So if push should come to shove, it's not going to take me very long to get up there. So yeah, these are the calculations that trans people get to make. Yay. It's like, I moved to a blue state and I still am like, maybe I might have to leave still, but I'm going to be stubborn about it for sure.
Yeah, there was actually supposed to be a talk at the Secular Student Alliance convention by a student leader on the trans refugee crisis, is what they were calling it. And in regard to this notion of trans people having to flee for our own safety, like often our states and homes we've been in for generations and things like that. And unfortunately, they were sick, so they weren't able to deliver the talk. But I was like, that was the one student thing that I was looking the most forward to seeing. So it was really a bummer that they weren't able to give that talk. But definitely, it is scary. And oh gosh. Anyway, before I get sucked down a negative rabbit hole, this is and speaking of politicians who maybe don't always do their best, let's look at this week's poll, which is, can trans people and their allies be blamed if they refuse to vote for anti-trans Democratic candidates like Gavin Newsom for president? So let me get a version of that up in the chat here, and then we will take a call and we'll come back to this, because I definitely have some thoughts. Can trans people... Sorry, I only have 100 characters in the chat poll, so I kind of have to edit this a little bit. Be blamed if they refuse to vote for anti-trans candidates. Like,
if you have been interred like a spicy feeling, if we have engendered a spicy feeling in you with this poll question, you can call in. Because I know that
Absolutely.
some people in the comments were spicy already.
Yeah.
The short time that poll has been live.
I already saw some comments and I replied to one of them and they replied to me, kind of softening their position. So I thought that was interesting. I was like, oh, interesting. Maybe you were being a little reactive and not thinking too emotionally or too, reasonably about this. But anyway, we do have callers on the line. The number is 720-619-2288. If you would like to get in on the conversation, we'd love to talk to you. But let's talk to first Alyssa, pronoun she, her, in Minnesota, wants to talk about being stealth and navigating social settings where people believe you're cis. So, Alyssa, you are live on the line with Arden and Lux. What's going on?
Hi. So glad to have this show for me to be able to reach out to.
Yeah, awesome. Tell us what's going on.
So a little bit of backstory. I've been full-time out for the last 4 years. 4 years now. How time flies. But I have been outed by well-meaning friends in the past, just kind of like slip of the tongue. And I just generally don't tell people that I'm trans, at least not in person. Sometimes I'll do it like online just because it's not really a face-to-face type situation. My safety is not really at risk. So I'm very guarded with that when it comes to talking to people in person. But I also get subjected to trans topics just because like this political climate, I'm in a really safe state. So I don't face like a whole lot of risk, but there's always bad actors. And I'm just trying to figure out how to kind of explain how all the like the political climate with trans topics make me feel without, without being able to speak from it from like a first person's perspective. Like I don't know enough about it to talk as like from an outsider's perspective. And I'm just like, how do I get the point across that I don't like a lot of things that some supportive people who are trying to be supportive like will say, but like I don't know how to correct them without outing myself. Kind of that's the kind of dilemma that I guess I'm calling to talk about.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I mean, I think you kind of run into an issue too, where anyone who feels really passionately in the other domain about this topic, I think even if you were a cis woman who, was like 5 feet tall, weighed 100 pounds, was blonde, had huge boobs, and a really, really high-pitched, mousy little voice. If you started defending this topic, they might be like, oh, are you a man? Like, you could be the most, embodiment of stereotypical aesthetic femaleness, and they would still, like, question people who defend this topic. So I think there's a bit of a risk there. But I don't know, the way I think about this stuff a lot with regard to like how it affects other people is that like, when we're talking about enforcing single sex spaces by biological sex, right? How do you police that in a way that doesn't harm cis women? You literally can't, right? And we've already seen that. Like there's been multiple stories since Trump took office of gender nonconforming, usually cis, like lesbian women getting accosted in bathrooms. Someone in Walmart like lost her job because somebody thought she was trans, even though she did nothing wrong in the case. Like, when it comes to like sports laws and stuff, right? They're wanting to enforce by policy, like rigid expectations of what the female body needs to present as, even in ways that exclude cis women from competition in some instances. So I think there is a lot of ways in which like you can have feelings about whether or not someone's gender identity is legitimate or illegitimate. Like nobody can control what your mind does, but when it comes to like what is the logical extension of these beliefs that you have about trans people, like almost invariably the policy prescriptions are going to be harmful to everyone. And so that's kind of where my mind goes. But Lux, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say you could always go with a sort of like generic white woman perspective response where you're like, gosh, I just don't know why everybody's talking about this all the time. Like, gosh, like, whatever happened to live and let live? Like, why am I having to hear about this all the time? that kind of like promoting kindness and being annoyed at bullying behavior, you can limit it to just that. Like, what did they ever do to anybody? You know, like this is, and like, obviously you're speaking about trans people as though you're not one. So there's like an amount of dishonesty in there, which I personally have never had a problem with doing when I've been in situations where I'm stealth. Like for the brief period of time where I was like in a male dominated workspace and passing as a male, and like the, you know, trying to navigate pushback of similar type situations where like locker room talk and all that kind of stuff. So like I don't mind myself being a little bit dishonest, basically. So your mileage may vary on whether that's uncomfortable for you. But you can always go the route, like kind of what Arden was saying. I just wanted to expand on it a little bit. If you were to go like, you know, assuming the people around you think that you're cis for the most part, going like, yeah, like, who's going to ask me when I go to the women's bathroom? Like, how are we going to enforce this? If somebody's like, you know, what, am I going to have to flash my tits now when I go in there? Like, you know, kind of centering that experience of a generic woman and how a generic woman might respond to just like, yeah, increased scrutiny on female only spaces, and reiterating like, I never had a problem with a trans woman in the bathroom. Like, where is all this nonsense coming from? Sounds like people are getting upset over a thing that's not really happening. You know, you can continue to use the same arguments that Arden and I use, just go at it from a more outsider perspective and reframe it ever so slightly. It's tough if you're like worried about being outed by other people, though. I don't really know if I have any advice on that part.
Yeah, like that makes a whole lot of sense. Like that's mainly what I do. It's always that little voice in the back of my head, like, what if people do realize that I'm trans? Like, then they're gonna know that, like, I'm, like you said, like, kind of being dishonest. And like, I guess I have a problem with that, mainly just because people don't take it very well if you don't tell them, even if they would have normally been supportive. And
Yeah.
just like, how do I make friends without it becoming like the focus of like, because I spent my whole life dealing with a disability, and people making comments to my face about my disability honestly hurts less than when people make trans comments and they don't know that I'm trans.
Mm-hmm.
Like I almost deal with like outward transphobia and like outward, you know, just ableism a lot better than feeling like I can't say anything. Or what if I slip up and out myself in the middle of the conversation? Because then it just feels, at least it might come across as like dishonest. I was just like, oh, here I am trying to talk as if I'm not part of this group. Like, people just don't
You're
take
always
you
allowed.
seriously.
I would say, like, I would just go, like, I'm tired of hearing about this. You don't have to elaborate. You don't have to say, you know, what if I was accosted in the bathroom? Like, you can just say, look, I'm tired of hearing about this. You know, this is the politics du jour. It's what everybody's talking about. I'm tired of hearing about this. I'm trying to hang out with my friend right now. And like, I'm just tired of it. So can we give it a rest for like 15 minutes? You know, and you can just lay a boundary down like that without getting into further detail.
It is so wild to me that it's like challenging for people who aren't in activist spaces to avoid this conversation. Like,
totally.
It's so bizarre. Like, what? I just can't think of even like an analog of where like discussion about some group that has nothing to do with anyone has consumed so much of daily political conversation. It's bizarre. And it's like, I just, I don't, kind of like Lex was saying earlier, like live and let live, man. I'm just trying to like be like every other person and, you know, do my job and like hang out with friends and like make life enjoyable to the extent that I can for the one life that I know I have. Like, I'm not, I don't know. I'm only politically active the way I am because other people are trying to stop people from being able to just live their life. You know what I mean? Like, I would genuinely prefer to not be engaged in any of this stuff and to just be living my life.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. Very weird that people are this like, I don't know, tweaked up about this issue. Very strange.
Yeah, totally agree. It kind of blows my mind. Like, I didn't really know much about trans people growing up, but I kind of always knew. So like I'm still relatively new to all of this, which is kind of just blows my mind that like it feels like I've been out forever, but it's only been like 4 years, which is I'm just like, okay, that's crazy to me. So like I'm still learning about a lot of this and just like how it blew up so suddenly. Like I came out pretty much right at the beginning of all this because the COVID just made everything go crazy. And I'm like, I think it's COVID brain is the best way. Like people being cooped up. I think like, but like it still doesn't explain why it became such a big thing. And it's overwhelming. Like,
yeah. I mean, I think honestly, the problem is that most of us are living in, an age where there's more wealth inequality than ever before. Climate change is an impending doom. Like there's several existential panics that I think are weighing on the mind of a lot of people in their day to day. And it's easier to say, well, this group of people is bad and evil and they're the reason that I'm stressed than to actually take stock of like, maybe it's like, the people who want to destroy a bunch of health centers to give tax cuts to billionaires that are the problem. Maybe it's the people who you are like simping for and defending with your stupid red hat that are the problem and not this random minority of people. It's, it's just, this is a tale as old as time. When people get stressed and faced with dire situations, it's a lot easier to attack a group of people who's not involved at all than to like actually think about what solutions are going to address the root causes of the problems that they're experiencing in their day-to-day life. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you wanted to add, Alyssa, or any is that like actually useful for you, or do you feel like you needed a?
It's definitely been useful. Gives me some things to think about, and a lot of it is just kind of putting it out there. And like I love everything that you do, so like coming from you two really, really means a lot, and it really did help. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm glad. Well, thanks for calling, Alyssa. We appreciate you, and you have a good rest of your day.
Good luck
Thanks
out
for
there.
having me.
Yeah.
Okay.
See ya. Bye. All right. That was a nice, easy wading into the waters call to start the day.
Yeah. We do still have open lines, so get in here if you have something to say. Yes.
We do still have our poll, so let's touch on that really quick while we let some more calls filter in. Here we go. So yeah, can trans people and their allies be blamed if they refuse to vote for anti-trans Democratic candidates like Gavin Newsom for president? So I see currently in chat, the poll is 78%, 79%. It's been oscillating, say no, and 20-ish% say yes, which honestly is a better divide than I thought. I don't know.
On the post, it's 70-30.
Okay. Yeah. I'm kind of mixed on this myself. Like, to one extent, I think we can all agree that like the lesser of two evils is always a better world, right? Just objectively speaking, like definitionally, even if Gavin Newsom is anti-trans and evil, if he would actually, and this is a big part of it, if he would actually do the things that would like protect reproductive rights for women or the other things that the Democratic Party, platform kind of allegedly represents.
Environmentalism, climate change, universal health care. If we get some of these other things,
I could stomach voting for him and knowing that this is in fact the lesser of two evils. And honestly, if he is the nominee, I will likely be voting for him regardless of that. Like I'm always going to probably try to vote for the lesser of two evils. But at the same time, listen, guys, this is one of the big comments that I saw first is somebody being like, oh, he's not anti-trans. He's done more pro-trans legislation than a lot of states. And it's like, sure, he did in the past, but his entire podcast, which I think what spurred Lux to propose this, has been featuring anti-trans after anti-trans person. And this is a movement that the Democratic establishment has said they want to make, is moving away from the woke, away from the trans stuff, the trans hysteria, whatever you want to call it. And so I was like, I think it's naive to pretend that this is just on his podcast and this isn't going to be a part of his presidential policy platform. That said, I still probably would vote for him, but it's a lot harder for me to judge a trans person who objects to Gavin Newsom, who's explicitly anti-trans, as opposed to Kamala, where there was this, kind of room for doubt. She hadn't said anything about trans people, so it was kind of like projecting your best hopes onto her and being like, well, she's better on every other issue. I really hope she comes around on this issue.
Yeah, it seems like she's not going to actively persecute us at the very minimum.
Yeah.
Like her refusing to talk about us is also not great, but yeah. It was partially his podcast and also that things are starting to roll back in California. Like trans girls have been allowed to participate in sports. And then recently there was a thing that went into effect where I don't know if it was like broadly applicable or if it was only one sport or one sporting body, but that they must now have like a consolation prize. So like if a trans girl comes in second place and a cis girl comes in third place, they bump that third placer up to share the second place with the trans girl. And then whoever got fourth place gets bumped up to third and so on and so forth if there were multiple trans winners. So like it's not immaterial. And like, yes, so these things have passed in recent years or whatever, in previous years of Gavin Newsom's like governorship. But if he is now saying, I agree completely with Charlie Kirk, and if he's now overseeing rollbacks in those protections, and if he's floated the idea that we need to raise the age of consent to receive gender affirming care, I think maybe he's one of the ones who said up to 21 potentially. Like that's a problem. And like I can't remember if it was 21 or 18, but like he's one of those people who's like, I'm willing to consider the idea of rolling back trans rights. So if we just had an election where Kamala not mentioning trans people at all, because I know some of you in the comments are going to be like, well, we should stop making trans things the center stage. Like this is what's losing the Democratic Party, whatever. Like, no, Kamala did not talk about us at all.
Right.
And she lost. So it's not, you can't say like associating yourself with transgenderism is what loses you elections. And like, can you blame trans people for being single issue voters? Like, are you going to like blame a Muslim person for not voting for an openly Islamophobic politician who's a Democrat? Like, I get it, the materialism of the lesser of two evils and everything. And I do want to help Oregon stay a blue state. Especially because there's a lot of rural red counties here. Like if you can persuade those counties to be a little bit less shitty, then yeah, that's great. But at the same time, like, yeah, I don't blame people for not wanting to support a candidate because we're so early in this. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You can hear it now. You can hear it now and go, maybe we shouldn't run fucking Gavin Newsom for the presidential, but like they're going to, so that's why we're talking about it. Cause it feels like they're just going to do it anyway.
Yeah, he was lower in polls earlier in the year, and AOC was second to Kamala, but now I'm seeing him at the top, and AOC still very, very close behind him. But like you're saying, it's still really early. We don't know for sure. But the other thing I want to say is like when people are saying, oh, trans stuff needs to not be a focus, like it's good to point out that one, it was never a focus, like literally ever, but I also don't think it should necessarily be a focus because, like, honestly, the most pressing issues on a lot of trans people's lives are the same issues that are the most pressing on everyone else's lives. The cost of living is completely untenable. Like, the cost of groceries and housing and all of these things is not sustainable for anyone, including trans people. I'm fine with a politician not making it the focus. But why is it that AOC has been unabashedly pro-trans, I know there's some complications and some misinformation around the whole AOC Israel Defense Dome voting thing that we don't need to unpack that right here, right now. But like she has been outstanding on trans issues, like consistently. Zoran Mamdani demolished his election, has been unabashedly pro-trans the entire time. And they don't really seem to focus on it as far as I can tell. When it comes up, they are great on how they talk about it, but they almost never like bring it up outside of when it's prompted because it makes sense. Proportionally, we're 1% of the population. They're talking about the things that affect everyone. Like, I'm fine with that. But why, like, to me, putting in Gavin Newsom is putting in someone who centers trans issues on the Democratic platform, but in a negative light. Like,
yeah.
Why are we not focusing on someone who is going to do the best for everyone, like an AOC? Yeah, it's very frustrating, and it just feels like there is no real good solution, and nobody's thinking clearly on this. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, the leadership at most of these atheist organizations is great, from a lot of their members, even like at these conventions, just comments on the side about like pronouns and things like that. And it's really sad that people are so ready to pick a villain and be like, this is why we lost. It's this. And it's like, we are absolutely not why the Democratic Party has failed to engage so much of the independents, the people in the middle. And appealing to fucking Liz Cheney and being a diet Republican isn't that either. Like, I think it's been pretty clear that socialist policies, leftist policies are what is getting a lot of independents and young people excited. But just, the Democratic establishment is owned by corporate donors. They will never cede ground on that, I don't think. I think they will be dragged along kicking and screaming until they have a number of victories under their belt in that regard, and then maybe they'll consider leaning into it. But like you're saying, Lux, it's still so early. Like, something could happen tomorrow that will completely flip what things are being proposed and who is leading, the polls and all of this stuff. So I really don't like to put too much stock into that stuff yet, but
yeah. But it would be nice if people weren't already preemptively blaming the Democratic loss in 2028 on trans people. Can y'all chill? Yeah. Stop it. Newsom derangement syndrome. These T-slurs won't get in line. Like, calm down.
Listen, this election has radicalized me and brought out parts of me that I genuinely hate, and that it's really frustrating. I tend to be a pretty chill person, or at least I used to be. I feel like I've become a much more angry person because of all of this. So I don't know. I'm not surprised by how our votes are going in the chat poll, and I think we're probably all honestly mostly on the same page about the most important things. I don't know. Something about this heuristic about trans people is just really grabbing so many, and it's really sad to see.
Cringe.
Mega cringe. Go woke. Did not Superman show us that going woke is the answer to all the problems? Come on, everybody.
Actually excited to see a Superman movie. I'm not going to see it until it's streaming, but I'm like, I don't think I've ever been excited to see a Superman movie.
I thoroughly enjoyed it without giving any spoilers, and I'm going to see Fantastic Four tonight, which will not be nearly as political, I don't think, unfortunately. I loved how political good. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we have a bunch of callers on the line, so we should get to those people. I don't want to make you guys wait any longer. Let's talk to I guess we'll just take them in order since there's no one super spicy jumping out at me. We'll talk to Henry in Brazil. Pronouns he, him. Wants to know how to be a cis ally without sounding like a cis savior. Henry, you are live on the line with Arden and Lux. What's going on? Hello. You are using the web caller. Your phone may have fallen asleep. If you pull it away from your face, tap it a little to wake it up, then try talking again. Henry, going once.
Does it work?
Oh, there we go. We got you.
Sorry.
No worries. What's up, Henry?
Yeah, what's up? First, a disclaimer. I didn't know I could do web calls, so this is nice. I always wanted to call the show. And my English is not very good, so sorry that you have to suffer through this.
No problem. Just real quick before we let you get started, you're kind of blowing out the mic a little bit. Like, I don't know if you can pull it away from your face a little bit or talk a little more softly. That would be great because I want to be able to hear everything you're saying. But then go for it.
Yeah. Better now?
A little bit. Just go for it. Okay. We'll work our way through it.
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to speak more softly and away from the phone. So My question is, and can you hear me better now?
Yep.
Okay. So my question is, so before I do my question, I have to give some background. I date a trans masculine person, and we've been together for 3 years. He started his transition like 1 year ago, and like I'm older than he is, and I like to give him life advice and all sort of things. But when it comes to like trans issues or things that he's experiencing, I don't have much of a basis to say anything. And what I'm trying to say is like he's involved with like some support groups. I go hang out with those people as well. And sometimes I hear things, I want to give my opinion, but I don't want to sound like, hey, I'm going to give you my opinion because I'll be your cis savior because I know everything. Because does it make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of what I would think on this is, I don't know, there's two different answers I would give, right? For the scenarios you're in, I think it sounds like it probably is a good idea to just be a good listener and to hear what their perspectives are. I think in-person experiences, personal, especially if they're like support group oriented, I definitely think not centering yourself is a good call. I will say in spaces like this where we're talking about trans rights, I'm like, we don't have enough cis saviors. Like, we need cis people who are willing to put their name on the line to defend trans people. Like, genuinely, we can't win this fight without cis people fighting alongside us at all. So, like, we don't have enough cis saviors in the online activist space and on the ground. But definitely, I think if you're having an interpersonal kind of dynamic, that's probably a little bit more tenuous. And it sounds like you've got a good radar for that. But I don't know, Lex, do you have any different thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, I agree that it's like you have to gauge what's appropriate for the space. And it feels like for the most part, Henry, you've been feeling like it's not appropriate in the space for you to assert yourself, or like you're not sure how to do it appropriately. And I would say, like, if you're feeling like I really have a burning desire to share something right now, you can always ask. You can say like, hey, I want to offer my perspective on this issue. Is that something that would be welcome for the group right now? Or if you're like, I would like to offer the cis perspective on this particular subject, if that might help clarify things or something like that. You know, I feel like it doesn't hurt to just ask and also make it very clear that you're okay with the answer being no. Like, yeah, I'm it's fine if you guys don't want to hear what I have to say. I just want to offer that I have something to say and recognize that this is not necessarily the space for me to take center stage. So it's cool if I should just be quiet. Or you could ask your partner, like you could be like, hey, sometimes I want to say something when we're in the support group and I feel like it maybe is not appropriate. So here's a recent example of something that I wanted to say, but I thought that maybe it would not be taken the way I intended for it to be taken. So can you help me gauge whether it would be appropriate, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, I think your phone went to sleep again, Henry. You'll have to wake it up. I'm so sorry the web caller works that way. It's the most annoying thing in the world.
Sorry. I'm back.
You're good.
So, no, it does make a lot of sense to me. I feel like I have a good gauge, just like to not be a nuisance or somebody that's being obnoxious. I think that's the word. It's just because recently they like had this public meeting, right? And I proposed to them like, hey, I have some friends as well. This is a public space. I don't know if you guys know how the context here in Brazil is. Unfortunately, it's one of the countries that most kill trans people. So the streets are not safe for them and everything. And like my proposal was, hey, I know like 3 other guys, or people that can help. We can be here. If anyone annoys you, we can like be there to not let anything bad happen. Like everybody was excited about this idea, right? So they were like, hey, yeah, we won and everything. I think it's more like a personal issue that I don't know how to draw the line. Like, am I talking too much? Am I like being annoying? But I think the first thing that Arden said about like, hey, we need allies, we need this kind of things, kind of explains how I'm supposed to gauge and feel things. It's just this concept about like cis savior is because, at least from our perspective here in Brazil, happens with like the left. Like there are some guys we call in Portuguese like esquerdo macho, like is the guy that goes like to a feminist and say, hey, I'm going to explain to you what feminism is.
Yeah.
Is, you know.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to run away from that. That's the point.
honestly, I think just being conscious of that is a really good first start, and being like open to, kind of like Lex was saying, like taking no for an answer, and being like, if somebody's like, hey, maybe you kind of crossed the line. I think the problem with people like that is not necessarily that they're there and that they're motivated and excited to be progressive on these issues. It's that when they get any kind of pushback, they then kind of like become sexist all of a sudden, where they're like, oh, well, fuck you, bitch, for telling me what, like, I don't know. Like the same thing, as long as you're able to kind of like digest that, you might get some pushback or criticism, and not to lash out and like be like, oh, like, I'm getting perspective that's maybe like kind of clarifying how I should act in this situation, that will help alleviate that kind of anxiety. But I definitely love, for fear of like being safe on the streets and stuff, like it's not exactly a one-to-one, but there is a group here in the US who goes to a lot of protests and counter protests and tries to keep activists safe, called like the John Brown Gun Club. They're like super great. And I love that when there is groups of people who are willing to be like, I will step up and, put my body and my physical safety on the line to protect marginalized people. I think that can actually be like a really good thing. So I don't think there's anything to be worried about there. I think it's mostly the only concern where that's going to happen is in those interpersonal spaces.
Yeah.
It also might be, I just wanted to jump in a little bit to say that you could also position yourself in an organizational structure where you're like, okay, how many more trans people do I know with cis partners who could be part of this? And like, who could like volunteer to go to the bathroom with someone, or like, be their like designated person who gets them safe from the bar that night or whatever. Like, you could very well take some of the like initiative that you're feeling and be like, okay, so at least among cis people, I can take a leadership role, or I can at least be like, I'm going to start collecting some people who feel the same way, and we can start to brew some ideas of like, is there a way for us to formalize the, like, can we get a schedule together? Like, can we get a requests portal where people can be like, I request a chaperone this night? Functionally is what you're doing. Obviously, that would need to be a really tight circle of people who you have personally vetted. Because obviously, like, you don't want to just give predators access to vulnerable people. So I'm not saying like start an app or something, but like just interpersonally, you can get people on the same page and go like, hey, wouldn't this be a good idea? Like for us to be available to people who feel like they need like somebody to ride in the Uber home with them so that they don't end up in the woods somewhere, like that's just an idea.
No, that was awesome. I think that like clarified a lot of questions for me.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad we were able to help, Henry. And definitely, if you get feedback that you feel like kind of changes your mind, call us and let us know. We'd love to hear from you again.
No, for sure. It was lovely talking to you. And just a final statement, Brazilians will understand if they hear this show is Bolsonaro na papuda. Just that.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Henry. Talk to you later. Bye.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Feel so elevated, like fancy. Also, I saw you muted this person, but there's this person in chat who's tweaking out, calling us twins. Identical twins. And I'm like, is this like some weird fetish? Like, I'm so confused. What is...
I don't know.
We don't look like twins. We've never said we're twins. There's never been any indication of this at all.
Like, we are both brunette, we have glasses, and we are white and vaguely feminine. Both appear... I would say we're both femme. Like, yeah, so like, okay, cool. That means we're twinsies.
It's so weird.
Bit like when lesbians are in public and someone's like, OMG, are you sisters? And they're like, no.
Oh my God. I always have a funny story. One time I was in an airport with my older sibling. And at the time, they were identifying as like femme to some extent. And we were going down the escalator, and this woman turns around and goes, "Are you two sisters?" And we were like, "Yeah." And she's like, "I can tell. You have the same nose." The secret is we do not have the same fucking nose at all. I very obviously got my dad's nose, and they very obviously got our mom's nose. Like, not even close at all. It was so weird. Some strangers.
They're so strange. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Okay. There is a potentially contentious caller here. All right, we're going to bring in Tomris from the USA. Pronouns are whatever. So let's see how she does. Tomris wants to know about if someone's gender is determined by how they identify. Tomris,
Hello,
you are
can you hear me?
live with Arden and Lux. Yep, we can hear you. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on? How are you?
Doing all right. Talk to us.
So the question's pretty self-explanatory. In your opinion, is someone's gender informed by how they identify?
Is it informed by how they identify? Certainly. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So you would say that someone who identifies as a man would be a man, and someone who identifies as a woman would be a woman?
Generally speaking, I do hesitate because sometimes people who are not engaged in this conversation, when they use the word identify, think that it is the mere statement at any point in time that is what we're talking about. Whereas when I think Lux and I talk about identify, we're talking about like sincerely holding a sense about your sense of self. So if that helps clarify, then yes.
Yeah, no, it does. I would just say that I guess the point of contention I would have with that is, I think I'm not one of these people who's going to say that sex and gender are like the same thing, and that your gender just boils down to like what your anatomy is or something. I think it is more nuanced than that. My problem is that your seeing as gender is social. I would say that your gender comes down to how you are perceived by the society that you live in. So, for example, if I identify as, let's say I identify as a woman, right? But I operate in society as a man. Everyone who sees me identifies me as a man. Like, for all intents and purposes, anyone who interacts with me, I'm a man. It doesn't follow that I'm a woman just because I feel like one or identify as one. You know what I mean?
I mean, what you've stumbled on here is actually some pretty high-level gender philosophy, which is that, like, yeah, it is a question of, like, at what point do you become a woman? If it is it something that's conferred on you by the community, which to some degree it may be. Like Judith Butler is on it with the performative theory. That gender is something that you are, or rather, it is something you do. But like if you're taking I guess like a more zoomed out view that appreciates the nuance, then you will understand that they are all factors of that. These are all different factors that constitute being when we are talking about gender. Like to be gender on one hand is what you identify as and like how you personally feel about yourself. And in another facet of this complicated thing, performative theory is something that dominates our lives in the way that like money dominates our lives, and it's like inescapable in that sense. And like the act of becoming is something that I think everybody goes through. This is actually, spoiler alert, going to be the crux of my Mulan video, but everybody goes through a gender transition, whether it's from boyhood to manhood, girlhood to womanhood,
Sure.
from boyhood into womanhood, or from like I'm a man now and now I'm in womanhood zone. Like there's an ongoing kind of becoming. And to some degree, I will say, yes, I agree that like the acknowledgement of your gender, like the common acknowledgement of your gender is predicated on some amount of outward transition or outward indication of becoming, is another way to philosophical jack off way to put it, I guess. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, I don't disagree with your premise. I just disagree with what commonly follows, which is that people who haven't sufficiently transitioned don't deserve recognition of that true and deeply impactful internal reality. Like that the issue that I take is that these are placed in conflict with one another when I see them as like deeply interwoven concepts, and that like, okay, just because somebody is early in their process doesn't mean that that reality is like less real. If it's nice when it's easy to tell what somebody's gender is, like by their presentation and everything, but to some extent, people don't have control over that. You can be on hormones for a long time and have it not not be able to change some things that got solidified earlier in your life, or maybe you have a conflicting medical problem that means if you take the hormones, then your risk of cardiovascular disease becomes unacceptably high or something. Like, so yeah, that's the issue that I take, is when those two things are placed in contention with one another, as opposed to being seen as like a complex, interwoven set of circumstances.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's just kind of, I guess the counter I would have to that is that, for example, for being a man, right? I would look at someone who is biologically, born with the male anatomy, identifies as a man, wears male clothes, does everything as far as we're aware that like a quote unquote man would do. But they lie to people and they're a coward and they disrespect women and stuff like that. I don't care how that person identifies. If they do those things, they're not a man. And that doesn't come down to how they identify. That doesn't come down to how they feel. That comes down to how they present themselves in the world. You know what I mean? So I would look at the same thing for a woman and be like, just regardless of what your biology says, if you do not resemble a woman, that you're not a woman. You know what I mean? And I'm not just saying
interesting that you
don't
contrasted
look like a woman,
those
but
two different things. I want to give Arden a second here, but you just presented a bunch of like behaviors and characteristics for men, and then presented looking like a woman as the only qualifier for being a woman in this criteria.
No,
I was almost on board. I was almost on board with like the idea that being an honorable man is tied into our idea of being a man. I was going to agree with you, but then you said something ridiculous. Now, Arden, I want to give you a chance to jump in.
Yeah, I think
you're misunderstanding. You go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I was just going to say what I think I see as the issue here is that gender has multiple use cases, like linguistically, and they are often overlapping in a lot of ways, but there are some ways in where they're distinctive. Like, we use gender sometimes to refer to gender identity, which is like very specifically that sort of psychological state of believing that you are a woman or a man or non-binary or whatever. But we also use gender to refer to like the roles in society. And there's a lot of overlap there, but they're also not perfectly two circles on top of each other, right? And so I think that's kind of where I see a lot of this issue is it's like, I completely agree with all this stuff about performance theory. Like this is why I've often said, I don't really care if somebody thinks I'm a man or if they don't think I'm ontologically a woman or like really a woman or whatever. Because like when I go out in society, like I've told the story all the time about when I'm going to Tractor Supply to get animal bedding for my animals, the worker comes out and is like, "I've got it, ma'am," and lifts this 40-pound bag for me. I'm like, it's a 40-pound bag. I'm 29. I think I'm able-bodied. I think I can handle it. It's not a big deal. But they treat me like a woman in society, right? Like other business owners will only look at my partner and talk to him like he's the obvious business owner when I am in fact the owner of the business and the one who runs that side of things. So like regardless of whether or not I'm really a woman, like society treats me like a woman, right? I completely agree with all of that. But also before I transitioned, before society saw me as a woman, my experience of my gender identity was the exact same. And so I think what trans advocates are trying to say here is like, we understand how society views this whole project, this whole like interface of socializing. And we're trying to say that like, let's maybe be gentle and not so forthright in our assumptions, because some people don't always match those assumptions and they also deserve to be treated with dignity when they're operating in society. And you can't really point to like a risk of violence or anything like that because there's no real evidence that there's any statistical risk of violence. And overwhelmingly, the people who commit violence are the people who know the victim personally, right? So it's not just going to be some strange trans girl who doesn't pass pissing in the stall next to you. It's going to be like your Uncle Jim or someone like that. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's really this interplay, in my opinion, of these different uses of gender and the way that they overlap and kind of using the space where they overlap to say that it's really the one over here and not the circle over here. And it's like, well, no, it's all of it, right? All of these things matter.
Yeah, I want to respond to what Luxander said a second ago, because I think you misunderstood what I was saying, that to be characterized as a woman is rough. I would say it's roughly as what's the word I'm looking for? It's roughly as intensive as someone categorizing as a man. So for example, and I guess this might be a little contentious, but I would look at a quote unquote woman who is, again, biologically female, all this stuff, right? Who doesn't who takes absolutely no pride in how she presents herself to other people, and like has absolutely none of the social norms that we would expect women to execute. I would not call that person a woman. I would call them a biological female. I would call them they as far as that, but like just because that person identifies as a woman, if they do not operate in society as a woman, then they are not a woman.
What we're doing right now is opening a much bigger can of worms than just the transgender issue. Mm-hmm. Because what you're doing here is like, okay, I want to like kind of reiterate to you what I've heard you say about like what makes I'm going to go ahead and say what makes a good man or woman in that kind of honorable context. Like I'm putting myself in a little bit of like a Game of Thrones medieval zone, right? Where I'm like, okay, what makes a good man? Okay, a man like protects his family, he's honorable, whatever. Like he's an upstanding citizen, however you want to define that. Okay. And then, so that's what your kind of general vibe is, what I'm receiving about like what constitutes a man as the way that you're defining it. Like a biological male is distinct from a man. Maybe in the way that some people would say like a dad is different than a father, whatever. Like, you know, the social role is different from being the sperm donor. And then for women, you're like, the criteria that I am describing for what makes a woman in that same sense of like, she's a good woman. She's performing her womanly role. She may be biologically female, but does she actually deserve this title that is conferred upon her by how she behaves? And the criteria that you've given is like pretty or like puts effort into her appearance. So the can of worms that I'm discovering here is that you associate manhood and womanhood with like sexist stereotypes in the way that we are often accused of upholding sexist stereotypes. Whereas I actually believe that if a woman looks kind of trashy and she hasn't gotten out of bed in 4 days, like I think that she's still a woman because woman is like a complex psychosocial phenomenon really that includes how you perceive yourself and is not anything to do with reaching arbitrary gender binary sexist standards of behavior, and certainly doesn't uphold the idea that the core thing about being a good woman or being a woman is putting effort into your appearance. Like that's the stumbling block that we're having right now.
Yeah, well, it depends on the society that we're talking about, and if you're like, for myself, and I think for most people, if you're without them giving you their like pronouns or telling you what gender they are or anything, when you observe someone for the first time, right, and you're seeing, are they a man, are they a woman, are they whatever, right? You're not necessarily consciously going through, are they making an effort to appear, pretty or something? Are they like, are they taking, you're not looking at that. It's just they look like a woman, they look like a man. It's like intuitive, it's instant, it's like
it's a pattern matching software that is running on our brains all the time. Sure.
Yeah, and I'm saying that's when we talk about men and we talk about women, and like it can be different in certain circumstances, right? Like for example, if I'm a military recruiter, when I say I have 100 men at my disposal, I'm not saying I have 100 biological men or biological males that like are that don't lie and aren't cowards. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that
Are you on the web caller? Your audio just dropped. Yeah, you're gonna have to pull your phone away, tap it, wake it up, and bring it back.
Gosh darn web caller.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. If your phone goes to sleep, if it goes dark, the screen turns off, we can't hear you anymore. So you gotta tap your phone, open it back up. Oh man, this is actually an interesting conversation, and you aren't hostile, which makes me want to continue taking this topic. So I'm like,
yeah,
I want to reward good behavior while disagreeing. Hello, Tom Riss. Okay, well,
sad.
Yep, I can't have the dead air, Tom Riss, so you can try calling in, and maybe we'll try to get you back in. Although we are going to be closing the lines here relatively soon. We still have some open space, so we'll try to keep it going. All I wanted to add on to that was, I think this is the direction you were going, Lux, but correct me if I'm wrong, was when we start to unpack what exactly is taking care of themselves, I think we're going to unveil a probably Eurocentric sort of white supremacist standard of expectation for what that looks like, right? And I think that's where a lot of feminists have been, that, you know, are well, maybe not all of them went down the pro-trans route, but many of them did, about like, kind of, this is the whole point of like what being a woman is, when you really pin it down, has no like single identifiable characteristic that includes everyone and excludes everyone, you know, as they're supposed to. And like, I definitely, is also a weird thing there, because what Thomas was talking about, I would agree that that is probably largely how society operates. But I think the discussion we're usually having here is this how society should operate? Like, we're kind of having a moral, ethical discussion about contrasting what we do with what we ought to do, what is going to make people's lives better, what is going to improve equity between people. I don't disagree that we live in a sexist society that expects women to look a certain way. Like, very obviously we do, but what I have a problem with is whether or not we should be operating that way, right? Yeah, no, that was a good conversation though, and I would be interested in, oh, he's back. He's back.
He's back. Okay.
Hello.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you heard any of that.
I heard some of it. My internet went out. I'm not sure how much of my monologue you heard, but
not much.
Yeah,
it was right after you got started that it went out. So
okay, yeah. I mean, I guess my whole thesis was that at no point is your gender tied to how you feel. So I don't really. I still haven't really been convinced that that's a good way to
see. But you're saying at no point, but yet you agree that gender identity is like a. When I went through that whole thing about the overlapping circles, you said you agree with all that, and then you went on to describe how society operates. But so it seems like it's weird to me that you could say you don't think it has anything to do with how you feel, and having said you agreed with what I said earlier.
It's not determined. Like, there's a strong overlap with how you feel, but that's not what determines it.
Sure, but to say that it has nothing to do with how you feel, then that would be incorrect, right? Like, nobody here, we've been saying this on TACIS since the beginning, that I don't think gender and sex are orthogonal. They're not unrelated. They clearly have a lot of overlap, a lot of influence on each other, right? Like, but to say that there's no relationship there, I think that would be radical and not substantiated. I think you're.
I don't think I was. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say it's a very complex, like, interweaving of how you have internalized social expectations and what the gender roles in your society are, and how you feel and how you want to communicate that to others. It is a massive web of like psychosocial and biological like diathesis, right? These sort of like predispositions that's coming together to create this result.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I started. My initial question was, does your identity determine your gender? And my whole point is that, like, you're right that it does have a strong relationship with it. It's just when we determine, at least as far as like orthodoxy in the English language goes, as when we determine if someone's a man or a woman, like, there's a bunch of different characteristics that go into it, but none of those characteristics are how they feel. Like, that's not what determines it. You know what I mean? Like, I think what you're saying is that if you identify as a man or you identify as a woman, you're going to make choices that like align with these like markers that we've determined as a society. It's just that's like you adhering to the markers is what makes you a man or a woman. It's not the feeling. The feeling is what catalyzes it, but that's not like you know what I'm saying?
Well, okay, so I'm just like trying to understand your perspective, Thomas. Like, genuinely, like. Do you, okay, I want to present to you a hypothetical and to try to like understand what it is that you believe. So let's say there's a female who works at an automotive shop and she has super short hair and she dates women. And she has grit and grime under her nails and she's wearing a frumpy, you know what mechanics wear, those frumpy ass button down shirts.
Sure.
Not making an attempt to be feminine or attractive or particularly upkeep her appearance. Is that person a woman for you?
It depends. If they resemble a woman, as in like they can go back to like bone structure and stuff like that, right? If they clearly are a woman based on like their physical characteristics, right?
Okay,
like
but these are contradictory criteria. Yeah. Like, you have presented one position where you've said you are a woman because of how you behave. I have now presented to you a female who does nothing that is typical for how a female should behave and be considered a woman, right? She doesn't even date men, this woman. And like, for you to now change you've shifted the goalposts to now say, well, actually, if her fucking cheekbones are high enough, then sure, I'll consider her a woman. Like, so you have just contradicted yourself, and you are either going to have to now choose one of those two criteria and stick to it, or you're going to acknowledge that gender is multifaceted and has to do with a complex, interrelated web of features that include behavior and biology and probably identity to some degree.
No, I didn't contradict myself. It's both of those things. It is both how you behave and it is what you look like. Those both go into whether you're a man or a woman, right? What I'm saying is that if there's a man who's like looks like a man and presents as a man and acts like a man, like.
But if you only have to fit one of those criteria, like, so the woman that I've described, you're like, yes, she's a woman because of her biology and how she appears, and even if she doesn't do all these other things. So is a trans woman who is doing all of the feminine behaviors but still has some lingering bone structure of a masculine jawline, is that person a woman?
If the remaining feature is such that I can tell that they were born, or I can tell that they're a dude from how they look, then yeah, they're a dude.
So can I offer a real world example that is controversial in this exact way? What about, do you know the actress Dot Marie Jones?
Do I know who? Sorry.
An actress, Dot Marie Jones. She famously played Coach Beast on Glee, who was a trans man in the show. This is a cisgender woman. She has very broad shoulders. She's very tall, very masculine facial structure. Her whole presentation is that she's a very like kind of masculine woman, right? So what are the features remaining that you're looking for in this individual that would indicate to you, this is a woman? Does it come down to she's got tits and a vajayjay?
Yeah, so I looked up the person, and she. Actually, this is a good example because in all of these pictures that I'm looking at, except for like things that she's clearly in like a TV show or something, she's wearing women's clothing. I can see I can see her breasts like protruding, so like I can see that that's part of her biology, and she just like her facial features and stuff, like she looks like I guess more masculine than the average woman would. Like she clearly like resembles a woman in my opinion, so I would refer to her as a woman.
I find it interesting that you went to wearing women's clothing, but also so much of this is what you look like. And I think there's so much to unpack on what that even means, what you look like, because also there are going to be so much variation between groups about how like females and males tend to look like in a given culture. So I think it's not a particularly reliable. And I also, again, want to come back to, like a few minutes ago, you said that like none of these things are about how you feel, but that was right after you would agree that how you feel was a part of it. So it's clearly not none of these things are how you feel. That's clearly some part of this. It seems to me like you're trying to have your cake and eat it too. Like you want it both ways, that it isn't about biology, but also that when all the chips are down, it's still about biology. When we can't pin down anything else, it still will always come back to biology.
It's a social performance, except when I decide that it's actually biological essentialism. I'm fucking mad right now, actually.
I don't see how what I'm saying is contradictory. I'm saying it's both based on your innate biological characteristics, and it is also based on how you perform. And at the end of, like, I think where I think you're misunderstanding me is that your appearance is largely dictated by how you perform, right? Insofar as you can do things to change the appearance of your face. And I'm saying that if someone who is born like biologically as a male, right, if they do things to their physical appearance such that I cannot tell that they are biologically male, and I like look at them, and as far as I can tell, they're a woman. They're a woman. Like there's no like it's not like they like I'm gonna ask to see like their like genitals or something. Like that's ridiculous, right?
I think that's also not a really reliable criteria, because there's an Instagram influencer I follow who's a drag queen. who started becoming a drag queen because outside of drag, he looks like a woman. And he was like, I have been blessed with super feminine features everywhere I go my whole life. Everyone assumes I'm a woman. When I go on a plane, I get ma'amed. When I try to go into the men's restroom at the airport, people look at me weird and they double take that they're in the right room. And they regularly present themselves in women's clothing with women's body proportions, you know, with like hip pads and breast pads and all this stuff. So like by this criteria, this person is a woman just because on a glance you saw they were a woman, but very obviously this person is a man and would tell you that even when they're in drag, I am a man. Even when he's not in drag and everyone still thinks he's a woman, he would tell you I'm not a woman. So like clearly this is not actually a reliable criteria for determining who is a man and woman. Perhaps reliable, but not completely, right? Like it's like a ruler whose inch is 1 inch off. And so, sure, in knowing that, you can kind of account for that when you're measuring stuff and make it all relative. But clearly, the measuring tool has a major flaw that could lead into some serious issues, right? Whereas we're proposing a tool that doesn't have that same flaw.
Yeah, so 2 things. Number one, I forget if it was you or if it was Luxander who said that one of the issues with this is that the subjective metrics of what makes someone a man or a woman is different from like group to group and culture to culture. And like that's exactly the point, is that like if you go to like China right now, for example, I'm sure that there's different expectations as far as like, remember when I said that like a man is someone who like doesn't lie and isn't a coward and all this stuff. I'm sure if you go to China, there will be different expectations that just aren't really applicable to our culture that like men and women will have to fit into. And like that's their culture. This is ours. You know what I mean? But number 2,
I think part of the point that Arden was trying to make is that our heuristic doesn't change from culture to culture, which makes it more reliable. But please continue.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, I think, but with what you were saying about your friend, I don't know if there was someone you know or someone you follow, but like,
no, I don't.
With the person who, like is, I guess, biologically male, but like, I guess resembles a woman, and like people think they're a woman when they, like, until they open their passport, right, and you see the little M, right, and you see that they have a man's name. Until that happens, they're a woman. Like as far as anyone's concerned, they're a woman.
I disagree,
right? Because they get treated as a woman. They get
this
manned,
individual was always a man.
I
completely disagree. I think this is a very, very flawed system. That's why what we're proposing, I think, is so vastly superior, because it both accounts for all of these like social expectations and social trends, but also it accounts for the times where those social expectations and trends fail. Right? We both acknowledge that, sure, the majority of time when I see somebody who looks like a standard biological female operating in society, engaging in women's roles, I am probably going to also assume they're a woman. But the difference is if they tell me, actually, I'm not a biological woman, I'm a man, I can go, oh, cool, nice to know. Now I have my categorizations set correctly. Like it seems like the categorization system you're suggesting is just so fluid, and not in the way that is like respecting the diversity of genders, but in that it can be whatever you want when you want it to be. Whereas I think what we're proposing is a system that allows you to categorize people accurately 100% of the time. That way, somebody who's a woman in China isn't a man in the US or vice versa. They're a woman no matter where they go, even if they don't necessarily fit the social expectations of the given culture they're in. That seems like a extremely flawed way to go about categorizing that element of people's identity.
Like the real world impact of this is basically like something that people feel is an intrinsic part of their humanity is subject to literally change on a per interaction basis. Like in my situation, like there have been times where I have been very overtly androgynous in my appearance. My voice is still very androgynous, whatever. If I'm wearing a mask and a hoodie, which I often do in public, you probably wouldn't be able to clearly identify any sex characteristics that I may have. So if I'm being gendered as a man and then a woman in this interaction and then the next interaction, like when I used to work retail and I had to talk to dozens or hundreds of people a day, is like that is a really destabilizing way to organize society, especially when we're like reflecting, again, something that many people is an intrinsic aspect of their humanity. I'm not saying that it isn't something that is kind of practically happening, that like, I'm either being subjected to misogyny or granted the privilege of being male in like one interaction to the next. But that doesn't mean that like literally what I am is changing minute to minute. Like, I mean, I guess what you believe in, Tomris, is like an extreme version of gender fluidity that would put you on the extreme fringe of the most extreme trans people. Or like that you believe that almost every single person is non-binary and there are only like 5 real men and women in the world who adhere to the standards of being biologically and behaviorally in line with their expected gender roles. Like, I don't really know that you even understand what it is that you're saying.
I mean, I feel like I do. Just like, I hate to keep using hypotheticals, but I mean, it's the best way to illustrate points that if I put out a fire once in my life, I took out a fire extinguisher and I put out a fire, right? I'm not a firefighter, but I put out a fire once. And if I go around telling people, and if I genuinely believe like in my soul, right, that I'm a firefighter, even though I'm not part of a fire department and I've only put out a fire like 6 years ago on this one like random occasion, like me identifying as a firefighter and even me putting out a fire at some point does not make me a firefighter. It's the fact that the general consensus among society is that in order to be a firefighter, you have to go around in a red truck and be part of a fire department and like do all this stuff, right?
Well, I actually was gonna say something about this earlier.
And I'll get like go ahead, yeah.
I think becoming is an interesting concept, right? So I really want to start hiking, okay? And so I am not yet at a stage where I can like go for a long hike because my health doesn't allow it, right? But I am in the process of acquiring new gear. I am in the process of training physically so that I can go on hikes. Like, at some point, I'm going to be a hiker. And like, maybe right now it would be more accurate to describe myself as like a hiker in training or like an amateur hiker or something like that, right? But like, my identity as a hiker or as someone who wants to be a hiker is influential on my life and on my behaviors, and is a factor, and actually a really important factor in my becoming of whatever it is I'm going to become next. The goal is to be a hiker. Maybe I'll get back into strength training or some other form of exercise. Maybe I'll get into like some insane kind of rock climbing, but like that identity as like a burgeoning whatever it is important, is tangible and influential. So it's like the same kind of thing. I'm trying to extract it away from the gender thing a little bit. But like my identity as a gender is a real factor of the world that impacts me and influences me and creates physical change in the world. Even the act of saying I identify with the gender that is different than the one I was assigned is a transgressive act and represents part of the total sum of behaviors that we are saying are related to how you are gendered and like whether that is given validity in the world. Like, it just so happens that I put a pretty big weight on that behavior of statement, that behavior of outwardly identifying. Like, I just happen to consider that a much more significant factor in honoring or identifying someone's gender than these other physical factors. And like, again, yes, I will reflexively see men and women in my life. And then I might learn, oh, that's actually a non-binary person. Like, I would have swore they were a woman.
Yeah.
But they're telling me that is the most important factor for me.
I also, just before we let you respond, Tomris, so sorry, I want to add one thing and then we'll let you respond. And then we probably got to move on because we do have other calls waiting. But this has been a good conversation. I definitely invite you to call back. If you've ever read the book Catch Me If You Can by Frank Abagnale Jr., there's also a musical named after it. It's essentially about this person who he's a con artist. He lies about who he is. He hides his identity, and he finds himself ending up being a pilot at a major airline, driving planes for a while, not getting caught, flying from port to port, and because he like came off the airplane and was presumed to be a pilot, he was able to kind of get himself some pseudo-realistic like paperwork to even affirm it. And it was after like I think even maybe multiple years, but I may be wrong on that. It's based on a real story of doing this. He eventually got caught. it sounds like to me, according to your understanding of gender and identity, that he would have literally been a pilot in all those instances. But I think everyone who reads the book, watches the movie, or watches the musical unanimously agrees he was never a pilot. He was pretending to be a pilot, right? He was performing pilot things, sure. And like with your example of the firefighter, somebody who puts out fires and drives the big red truck, I don't think is necessarily a firefighter. A firefighter is somebody who has worked to be a firefighter, has gotten the credentials to be a firefighter, and has been officially deemed a firefighter, right? Like it's not simply the act of doing always. And I think in some cases it can be, but I don't think in all cases. I think it's almost like you're taking some situations where that does kind of apply and extrapolating it out. But yeah, anyway, I would love to give you a chance to give your last thoughts and then we'll wrap up. But again, I do invite you to call back because this was a good conversation.
Yeah, no, so just two things. Number one, to the pilot thing, I absolutely, he wouldn't be a certified pilot. He wouldn't be a legal pilot. No, a pilot is someone who flies planes. So as far as I'm concerned, he would be a pilot. And I think, going back to what Luxander was saying, excuse me, about hiking, I would not, you're not a hiker. No offense, because you're not a hiker. When you start going for hikes, if you open that up by saying that you're training to go for hikes and you're doing all this stuff, but that you also go for hikes, you're a hiker. You know what I mean? But the thing that makes someone a hiker is the fact that they go for hikes, just like the thing that makes someone a pilot is the fact that they pilot things. And just like what makes someone a man or what makes someone a woman is that they do man things or they do woman things. That's
right.
I just want to clarify that we use language. That's
the identity is hugely influential, and that is my point. The identity is a huge factor in what you choose to become and what you do become. So I'm just trying to counter this idea that the identity is not a relevant factor in who we consider to be part of a certain group. I actually did go on a very easy hike in a park. It's am I not a hiker until I've gotten to a certain elevation? Where there's a sliding scale now, a spectrum. So anyway, that was it. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you so much, Thomas, for a very stimulating conversation.
Yep, call back.
Yep, have a good day. Bye.
You too. I'm curious if we operate in society under Thomas's model, if somebody pretending to be a doctor and injecting you full of some low-grade silicone imitation that gets you infected and having to have your legs removed, if you could actually prosecute that person for pretending to be a doctor, for impersonating a doctor. Could you get someone in trouble for impersonating a cop by his model if being a cop is merely wearing cop clothes and doing cop things like arresting people? I think it's very obviously an insufficient way to go about categorizing people, but it does work in some instances, like being a hiker or being a fan of I don't know. It's interesting. So fascinating.
It's just can you not acknowledge that it's a factor, but maybe not the only important thing about it? That's the thing is I acknowledge that performance is part of it, and I'm happy to have a very high level intellectual conversation about at what point do you become something cool, that's the example in ContraPoint's video is coolness is something the community confers upon you. What happens if the anime club thinks you're cool, but the Quidditch club doesn't think you're cool? Are you cool? Is that dependent on context? Is it something that's intrinsic about you as a person? Yeah, it's a very interesting conversation. I just think it's so dumb to put it down to only one thing and stick to that, but not when it's inconvenient. Then I'm going to backtrack to biological essentialism. I'm actually still big mad.
I hope we unpack that, because that was a little bit frustrating, and I think kind of exposed the problem with applying that model to gender. But yeah, I do hope he calls back in, because that was a good conversation. Okay, we have 4 calls left. We're going to get to them all. I do have to be out of here. We're seeing a movie at 7:30, I think, so not a tight timeline. But I do want to remind you guys to hit like and subscribe. It massively helps the channel, and it's totally free. If you're doing it right now, let's see, how many live viewers do we have currently on the show?
Almost 500.
500. And we have 190 likes. So even
Pump
if
up those numbers.
Yeah, a very small handful of you guys hit the like button right now, you could really massively help the channel. Consider leaving a comment when it's done. And then I will get some poll questions in the chat here shortly for our punishment. So if you send a super chat of $5 or more, we are going to read it out live at the end. And if you include hashtag Team Arden or hashtag Team Lux, whoever gets the least amount of points has to spend 2 minutes defending an embarrassing, oh, the movie starts at 6 p.m. My bad. So I guess we kind of have a time limit of like 5 o'clock then, but we're still good on that. Yes. All right. But let's, in the meantime, let's jump into this next call. Let's see. I think we still have one more potentially interesting call. So I'm going to take that one first. Jamin, him in California says, how does someone who's biological male know the experience of someone biological female? So, Jamin, you are live with Arden and Luxander. Why don't you set it up? Where are you coming from on this?
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, I'm new to the topic, so I apologize in advance if and when I use the wrong vocabulary or offensive terms. So feel free to correct me. I'm open to that.
Okay.
Genuinely, curiously, biological men and biological women have different lived experiences, not just sociologically, but biochemically and physiologically. So then, for a biological male who identifies as a woman, how do they know that they are a woman since they don't have the experience of being a biological female? That seems like, I understand identifying as not male because what I think of as male, like I don't identify with that thing. But to look at someone else who I haven't had their experience and say, I am one of you, I don't know how you could do that. Genuinely don't. I'm not trying to like make a point with that question. It's just a question with a question mark.
Yeah. So, 2 things. I think first thing I would do some mild pushback on the extent to which your biological sex informs your experience of reality. Obviously, there are things like going through a like menstruation and things like that somebody who's assigned male doesn't experience, although there's even some maybe question there for when it pertains to trans women. I would say that from my perspective, trans women aren't claiming to be cis women. So me saying I'm a woman is not me saying I am identical to somebody who is a cis woman. I think that is a huge misconception. People I'm not saying my experience is identical to someone who was assigned female at birth and lived their whole life as a woman. But yeah, that's kind of where I would start off with that conversation. Lux, do you have thoughts?
I mean, I think you're on to something with like the where this thought process starts is like it pretty much always starts with a feeling of alienation from the assigned gender, right? Like it may not be clear that you know for sure what is on the other side of this, because I, as a non-binary person, I at first was like, oh, I feel this way, like I must be a binary trans person. And so I started like going through the motions of doing that. And then I was like, oh, also hate this. Not a big fan of either one of these things, as a matter of fact. And then so for me, I'm like, okay, I'm non-binary. That's the answer for me. I can be more flexible with how I approach these topics. I'm not trying to fit into a group that is a pre-existing group. Like I'm just chill where I'm at, doing my own thing. So yeah, I would say for a lot of us, I mean, and for some people it is much more clear. Like Josie will say, because she knew from like the age of like 5, our host Josie Caballero, she was like, I can see these groups of people and I can tell which group I want to be around and who I want to be like. And like, I want to be like this group of people on a level that's more than just like, I really admire my mom. You know, it's like, I want to be one of the girls. And like, I think I am one of the girls for children who are pretty young. So like, yeah, we can't know for sure. Like, I have no idea what it's like to grow up as the opposite sex or whatever. But that doesn't change that, like, we do feel a sense of resonance within whatever that group is when we figure out what that group is.
Also, just sorry, real quick, Jam, before we let you respond, I just want to say, I don't think that also, like any cis woman knows what it's like to be any other cis woman, right? I think there are differences there. And I think that every little child is going through that same experience of looking at the men and the women in their life and kind of seeing who they relate to and orient themselves towards and what parts of that they want to integrate into their own sort of sense of self and what parts they're going to let go of. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean that makes sense. So the non-binary part makes more sense. Like I don't feel like I have a home, except among people who say that they don't feel like they have a home. So that part makes perfect sense to me. So I'm married to a cis woman. After 25 years of marriage, like I'm still learning how much I don't know about her experience as a woman. Like I'm still occasionally surprised by things I learn about the way that she looks at the world. And I feel like I have felt in the past more confidently, like I know what her experience is like, or I know what it's like to be her. But the fact that I continue to learn about that experience tells me that nowhere along the line would I have been able to say, oh, this is what her experience is, and I've been anywhere near correct. So I feel a lot more comfortable, or I guess it makes a lot more sense to me to say I don't have a home in this community the way that it's presented to me. Like I'm not a man by any description that's given to me, but taking a look at another group and saying my experience is your experience, which is I hear a little bit of hedging on that. So I'm probably not stating that correctly.
Yeah, I think that's a mistake. I think that's where you're going wrong, is I'm not saying my experience is your experience when I'm talking to women. I'm saying that, like you're talking about, when I was growing up as a little boy, and my dad would bring me to go ice fishing for 6 hours out on the frozen lake with his friend and his son, and they were doing boy talk, I felt like existential dread. Like, what is this environment I'm in? This is horrifying. And when I finally transitioned and let myself feel comfortable as who I am and hung out with my girlfriends, right? Not partners, but my girls who are friends, and kind of integrate as a woman into that space, I felt so normal and at peace. And I was like, wow, the way I've interfaced with the world, this is where that works. This is where that feels normal. I do feel a home in this sense of self, right? So you're talking about that sense of like no sense of home. And I totally understand that. I think the difference is that binary trans women and men do feel that sense of home with their identified gender. But in no way am I saying like my experience is the same as yours and I understand your experience perfectly. But I would say, to the extent that you were like, oh, I was realizing there was things about her experience that I never could have known. It's like, sure. But also, I think somebody who probably identifies as a woman is going to have less of that reaction to women's experiences because they're going to have been more attentive their whole life to the experiences of women. And especially for people who transition at a young age, like I experience misogyny when I go about in the world. So I do understand a lot of women's experiences, at least in certain domains, because I'm experiencing them literally, you know? When people are treating me in misogynistic ways, they don't know whether I'm trans or cis. They just treat me with misogyny. And like, that is an experience that I'm getting like, you know, wholesale. There's no filter through that experience.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I say like, it's not just sociological, but also biochemical and physiological. And those are the parts that seem less knowable. But I'm not hearing from you, what I feel like I'm hearing from other places. So there's some generalizing going on here. But yeah, that makes sense to me. Unfortunately,
I do want to reiterate. I do want to reiterate, like maybe what's something that you're hearing from other trans activists is that for a person who is trans growing up as a little boy is a different experience to a man growing up as a little boy.
Yeah.
So when trans women are talking about their experience as children, maybe they don't know what it's like to be socialized as a cis female, but they also don't receive the typical socialization that boys do. So they are growing up with something going on. And so for them, it's basically like, I grew up with a very unique form of suppressed girlhood, like decontextualized girlhood in a way. So yeah, maybe that's part of it, is like sometimes people say like, I always knew, or like my experience isn't fundamentally that different to a cis woman's. Is like, first of all, yeah, once you transition, then yeah, you're experiencing misogyny, and it's just kind of like, that's what life is like now. It doesn't change your feeling of belonging in that group. It does. It's like one of the negative things about being a woman, but it doesn't make you feel like you're going to stop being a woman because you get catcalled now. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify that a little bit, that like, yes, growing up as a cis child is different than growing up as a trans child. Even if you don't find out until you're in your 40s, your experience before coming out is not the same as cis boys. And you, like, part of the problem for trans women is that feeling of alienation of like, I never got to have a normal childhood because I didn't feel things the same way that other people who are raised as boys felt.
Right. Would it be fair to say, I didn't feel things the way that I perceive other people feeling that?
I guess like a sense of discomfort that other people didn't seem to have, like a struggle that other people just didn't seem to have, is like defines for a lot of people their trans childhood.
Yes. Right. Okay. So then, just so I can say it back to you, hopefully in a way that you would agree with, I think we're both saying that a trans child doesn't feel like they're experiencing the world the way that cisgendered people seem to be experiencing the world, and they feel more at home when they are around and hanging out with and acting as a member of this other group. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Cool.
Awesome.
Cool. That's very helpful. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. Appreciate you calling in.
All
right. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Yeah, I think sometimes the way we talk about these things in like online spaces like Twitter and stuff can sometimes boil them down into these sort of boilerplates that if you are trans and in the community, I think you totally get all of the complexity and depth and nuance to them. But if you are just a passerby, you're like, so you're saying my experience is that your experience is identical to this other person? And it's like, well, no, I mean,
no.
Like no two people's experiences are identical. So like that would be weird to say, even removing the trans element from this, you know? Well, we did have like 3 other callers left, but 2 of them dropped. So all we have left is Maya, she, they in New York, who says trans topics about parents who don't understand that side of things. I'm not entirely sure what you mean, Maya, so hopefully you can help us understand. You are live with Arden and Lux. Ooh, are we
hi, yes.
in a car or an airport?
I am in a car right now. I'm sorry. I was driving somewhere as I was on the line.
Are you able to pull over? Because we tend to not allow callers who are driving on just because these are deep conversations, and it's either going to make the conversation bad if we let you do it, or it's going to put you at risk. And I don't want either of those things.
Oh, no, I totally understand. Yeah, I can try to find a spot to pull over. I'm so sorry.
Right. That's all right. I'm going to put you on queue for a second, and I'm going to do some businessy things for the line, and I'll bring you back in like 2 minutes while you sort that out, okay?
Of course, Of course. So sorry.
No worries. All right. Well, we made on Maya to find a parking spot. I got to get some polls up. So maybe chat can help me here for what the punishment should be. I went into my list that I have of weird topics that I just pull from occasionally when I'm having a brain blank. One of them is that Congress must wear crop tops. So let's see. What do you think are some good topics that specifically are going to make Lux and I squirm to have to defend them? I think those are sometimes the most fun. So, but also consider liking and subscribing. Again, that stuff massively helps. I see we got almost 100 likes since I asked you guys earlier. So let's do another round of 100 likes. That would be good. Thank you.
Someone also says in chat, if everyone in chat gave a $5 donation, we would have $2,400. What?
Whoa.
That's crazy.
Can you imagine?
What?
Yeah, we will be reading all super chats over $5. Defending Marjorie Taylor Greene or Nancy Mace.
Oh no.
Oh my God. Okay. MTG is the best Congresswoman. Okay, that's a good one. Abolish gender. Yeah, but I kind of agree with that. That's not gonna help. Pokemon is for idiots. I mean, I think I agree with that too. I mean, like,
I could do that one. Yeah.
Have you seen me? Hello. Ban tacos. That could be a good one. Do you like tacos, Lux?
I love Mexican food.
Me too. Okay.
So much.
Tacos suck. All right.
Okay.
Congress wear crop tops is almost too easy, but I'm going to leave it on there. All right. So your options for the loser poll, though, what the loser has to spend 2 minutes defending is either Congress must wear crop tops, Marjorie Taylor Greene is the best congresswoman, or tacos suck. Two of those feel really, really bad. I would absolutely hate to do those. So, all right. Let's see. Let's bring Maya back in and see if she's ready to go. Maya, you are back. Are you there?
Yep, I'm still here. I've just found a spot to pull over.
All right. No worries. I appreciate you being cooperative on that. I just want to make sure everyone's safe and we have good conversation. So what do you want to talk about?
Okay, so my topic was regarding trans issues, regarding like parents that exhibit both trans affirming and transphobic sides, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Interesting.
This is actually coming from personal experience, but my parents in particular are kind of fit that bill. When I first came out, they were like very affirming. They were very like okay with me being trans. They were like helping me out by like, you know, approving of my name, my pronouns, helping me go like shopping for like more feminine clothing, that sort of thing. But recently I've begun to like notice a lot of like transphobic rhetoric that I've been hearing a lot from them. Which started at the beginning when I first started transitioning, that like talking about how me transitioning was probably just like a phase, that I need to have certain things done before I could like fully be trans or be a woman, like bottom surgery, stuff like that. And most recently with them supporting our current President Trump with like all their policies. And I did inform them about like the like trans subjects of like what Trump is doing, but their statement about it is that like they just want to have a better economy and whatnot, and that if some rights for trans people like have to go away, then so long as they have like a place to live and a better economy to live in, that's their priority, I guess. And a part of me is just trying to rationalize like that side of things, because they're still very supportive, but at the same time, I'm seeing so many like signs of the opposite end that I'm trying to like rationalize and like understand like how to deal with that, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like almost every trans person out there is probably experiencing some degree of this right now. I don't think there's almost any cisgender parents who are going to be perfect on trans rights. You know, I mean, even my mom, who has been my biggest supporter and ally through everything. I love her to death. She is amazing. Doesn't always get it right. She's pretty traditional in her experience of gender and her expectations of gender for other people. And I think that's pretty common. I will say this is a really hard one when you're operating on how people vote. I think I've tried to have this conversation with multiple family members, with more success with some and less with others. I think ultimately, how is a trans person meant to enjoy an improving economy? By the way, the economy is not improving under Trump. Everything he's doing is destroying our economy.
I agree.
Sure.
I totally agree. I've even tried mentioning that to them, and they think.
Yeah, but even like just to help them work through the conversation, like granting them that maybe the economy is getting better under Trump. How is a trans person meant to enjoy the economy when they aren't able to go out in public because if they have to pee, they're going to be breaking a law? How are you meant to enjoy all the money you're making if you can't go hang out with your friends at a restaurant because you'll get arrested for pissing in the bathroom? That's like, just, it doesn't make sense, right? Like, it's completely untenable. How are you meant to enjoy society if you're not able to access the medication to affirm your gender, potentially leading you to being more at risk of like violence or discrimination? Like, I think violence is probably more likely, but still rare. But like discrimination from people just being bigoted or shitty towards you, that's definitely not uncommon to anyone's trans experience. I think to the extent that the economy even is improving and it's not, it is made moot by the fact that my ability to interface with society is completely handicapped. So that's kind of where I'm coming on that.
I am terrible, and I would be directly confrontational.
Me too.
But yeah. But it's like how? Okay, are there any conditions of other people suffering that would cause you to rethink your level of comfort? Like, how many people need to be churned in the gears that are just sticky with blood before you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of your fucking comfort? And yeah, also, how's that fucking good economy going right now? What's your grocery bill like compared to 12 months ago? Yeah? I don't know about anybody else, but I'm certainly paying like on average $30 more every week. And that's like, I'm trying to make healthy choices and everything. Yeah, so I would just, I would be like, what is different between you and like Anne Frank's neighbors? Like, what's the difference between you two? Do you really think that like your comfort is worth a bunch of other people like literally dying? And if you are comfortable with that, like, I would just be like, okay, then you get to sit with that. You now have to know that about yourself. It's now part of your explicitly stated self-identity. You are completely fine. Some level of death that is necessary to maintain your way of life, you're like, that death is good. That suffering is good. And if it's necessary to support your way of life and you're willing to do it, then you need to be fully cognizant of that and sit with it. And I will see you in a couple weeks. Like, I would be a bitch, but that's just me. That's why I don't talk to my grandparents and family members, because I'm like, I would just rather not yell at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. That's sort of why I've been kind of trying to lean towards not speaking with them in regards to like politics and whatnot, just because of the stress of all of that. I know I've tried talking with them before about politics, mostly about like how like all the trans stuff that's going on, gauging like what their like knowledge of it is. And most of the time that I talk to them about it, it's mostly just like transphobic rhetoric, like how, oh yeah, trans people are pretending to be trans to go into the bathrooms to sexually assault people, or how I've even heard like when I was like starting out transitioning about how like trans athletes and like how they have an inherent advantage, as well as the topics of like, transitioning for like trans kids and stuff like that. And when it comes to their stance on like when they want to step in to like help like other people, it seems to just be like people that they're like connected to, like relatives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I know that they still like support and like they still are okay with me being trans, but that sort of had me like realize something that I'm still grappling with, and I'm still trying to like understand if this is actually the case. But it feels to me like they're only really accepting of me being trans because I'm their daughter, that like I'm their kid. So that means that like they can't really be openly against it because they want the best thing for me. And they've seen that like me transitioning has made me much happier. So they know that transitioning makes people happier and makes people live better lives. And yet they're against other people doing that.
Yeah, I mean, this is that's
the stuff I've been like getting.
this is a really common problem with conservative thinking in general. That's been everyone I know back home in my hometown all of my family who I no longer talk to will approach me with a sort of facade of love and support, right? They'll be like, Arden, it's so good to see you again. But, if I ask them like, hey, should I be allowed to use the women's restroom? We'd probably get into a fight, right? This is a really common problem with conservatives where they're like, everyone I know is one of the good ones, but the rest of them are all awful. It's the same with immigrants too, right? Like how many conservative people employ immigrant labor, but then are vehemently opposed to like any meaningful immigration reform that's going to make immigration easier on people. No, they're like, yeah, mass deport, get them all out, throw them into alligator Auschwitz. I don't care. Like it's a really common problem with conservative people. And one of the reasons why a lot of people are like, knowing a trans person massively increases the likelihood that you're going to be supportive of trans rights to some capacity. But I see two different paths in front of us. Like, if you are looking for advice on how to maintain your relationship with those family members, that is one path. And I think that's going to be a conversation, which it sounds like you're already doing well in, which is boundary setting, establishing the rules of engagement, and deciding how important these relationships are to you, and to what degree you want to allow them to be in your life. The other is, are you looking for ways to combat the things they're saying? Because that is a different conversation and is not going to be necessarily how you maintain a good relationship with them. It could even likely lead to more confrontation. I tend to be like Lux and lean towards the latter, but I understand that most people want to have a close relationship with their family, and that makes perfect sense. And so it's kind of like, what are you looking for?
Personally, when it comes to like my parents and stuff like that, I have been like thinking with like the idea of possibly going low contact, at least just for like a little bit, if I ever like have the ability to like get my own place and stuff like that, and not have to like interact too much, just to like understand and like wrap my head around everything. But I know for a fact that I still want to keep them like in my life and keep a relationship with them, because while yes, they are like openly like supportive of me, they're also them sort of against others that are like me.
Yeah.
Which, while yes, is not impacting me directly, is still something that upsets me because it's a part of my community.
It's dehumanizing.
So I guess what I'm looking for.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask a clarifying question of like, when are they bringing this up to you? I guess finish what you were saying, and then I want to know when, like, how is this anti-trans stuff coming up on the regular basis with you guys?
Okay. So when it comes to like when it's brought up, it's mostly random. Most of the time it's just like politics talk that like I'm overhearing from like either my dad and my brother, or just random politics talk that happens because one of us brings up like a political statement and we just start going into like politics talk for about an hour, which I stopped trying to do. I mostly just either are like, yeah, that's cool, and then I just end the conversation there nowadays, or I just try to like just say something like, hey, this thing happened in politics, that's pretty interesting, and then just leave it.
Yeah.
So I try my best not to engage with politics too much anymore. But before I started like coming to terms with this, it was very like random. But it was just like big points that like I noticed that like every time we'd have conversations like this, it would always kind of lead to it. Especially when I first started transitioning, where a lot of their worries is like, oh, it's just a phase, you'll grow out of it, or oh, why did you go get HRT? It's going to permanently affect your body. Which I've been on for about a year and a half, and yeah, I hope so too. I want to keep what I've got.
Yeah.
I guess I was just gonna say like, I think an angle that you could pull here, because what I'm gathering is you're like, I'm considering going low contact when I move out, but right now it's a situation where I have to be around it, and I want to try to push back a little bit, but I am not prepared to like sabotage the relationship at this time. So if that's the track that you're on,
Right.
I think something that you could do is, if it's being brought up directly to you, or even if it's being brought up around you, if they're saying something anti-trans and they're like, oh, but you're the exception or something, I would honestly, in to avoid being confrontational, but to still try to correct the situation, you might start being like, listen, do you really think that's appropriate to bring up around me? Like, do you think that I want to hear you say this? Have you considered how you talking bad about other trans people might make me feel? Like, you know, I whatever, I can't, you can believe what you believe, but can you just acknowledge that it's not acceptable to keep bringing this up around me, or to like tell me directly to my face something anti-trans about like if they say something about like, oh, they're just lying to get into the women's room, be like, are you really sitting here saying that right in front of my face? Really? Like, this is the conversation we're having, and just create like a personal indignation around it, and go like, listen, I don't care what you believe about other trans people. Like, really, I wish that you could be half as compassionate to them as you are to me, really. But ultimately, at least stop making me feel like shit having to hear it all the time. I'm going to stop talking to you if you keep making me feel like shit all the time. Like, that is something that will come later, obviously, in the conversation. You're like, after it's happened a couple times, be like, what do you think is going to happen eventually if you keep doing this? I don't want to be around this anymore. I'm trying to live my life and I have to listen to this negativity, and I'm tired of it. So I don't know, if you're trying not to be confrontational, you want to maintain the relationship because you live together, but you also don't want to keep having these conversations. Or if you want to be like, how are you going to sit there and listen to Fox News, but you're not going to sit here and listen to me about all the trans people I know, all the people I love who you are talking about right now, all my friends who are catching strays right now. So you could go one of those two angles, either like drawing the boundaries of, I'm tired of fucking hearing about this, and how dare you make me feel bad in my own home where I don't even have the option to leave right now. Or like, you need to start treating me like I'm more of an expert than those idiots on the television are, and like understand that I am an authority on the subject, and maybe start thinking differently about trans people, because otherwise I'm just gonna not talk to you.
Yeah. I think it's hard because, like, I know for me, like, I think to maintain the relationship, like, I would be like an alcoholic. Like, it would have to be absolutely, this topic does not come up at all. I don't think I could do the piecemeal, like, let me try to work in a little thing here and there, because I don't know, for me, whenever they would drop a comment like you're describing, Maya, I would be like extrapolating out, like, well, like, what about this and what about that? And I know I'm like a dog with a bone. I can't let it go. So it'd be really hard for me personally. And I hope you're not in that situation, because definitely it's a huge inhibition to setting good, healthy boundaries in that kind of way. I will say I kind of love appealing to, like, sort of some of the liberal comedians that are like making good jokes about this topic. Like, there's a great one that I posted on like my Instagram the other day, or reshared, this guy being like, if you think that trans women are going to assault people in bathrooms, or that men will pretend to be trans women to assault people in bathrooms, that means you think there is actually somebody out there in society who's like, I really want to kidnap and abduct and sexually assault that person, but unfortunately, I'm not allowed in that bathroom. Like,
yeah,
it's absurd. It literally does not make sense. It is a completely incoherent worldview when you actually like pick it apart. So I don't know if trying to approach things in sort of like a comedic, lighthearted way could be useful. I'm not fast enough to think on my feet, but there are some great comedians out there who do, like, John Marco Soresi, I like him a lot. He does a lot of good kind of like pro-trans humor. But I don't know. Yeah, there's people out there who are like that. I don't know. It's hard. That's why I was kind of like, in my mind, I see two paths. It's either like, because I don't know. I'm projecting a lot of my own baggage here. I'm like, I want to sort it. Like, you know, I want to be like, if there's a problem, until we have some sort of resolution, I can't be comfortable just sitting here pretending that there's not an elephant in the room. And that's what it seems like boundary setting ends up being a lot of the time, is like agreeing to pretend that there's not an elephant in the room. But, you know, it sounds like you are close with your family, even if you're not forced to be around them. And so I completely understand wanting to maintain that relationship. I don't know. I wish I had better advice. I think Lux gave some great stuff there, but I just, if you figure out the solution, please tell me. I would love to have that information.
I'd love to. I'd also love to call back anytime, because this has actually been a very nice experience, because I've never called before. I've listened to this place a lot. I think it was originally like a bunch of other like trans videos with Forrest, I believe. But yeah, like
Yep.
I definitely really enjoy this channel, and I definitely will want to call again just to talk more about this specific topic. And if I have any other ideas, I'll let you know. But I did want to mention something before the phone call ended. One of the points that like I was thinking about as you both were talking is that when it comes to like discussing topics with them, like trans topics and stuff like that, when like they're just repeating transphobic rhetoric, like for instance, trans people are pretending to be trans to go into the bathroom to sexually assault people, I would bring up like the points of like there's nothing stopping someone from just walking in there. And even if there was like some magical law that like made people go to like the bathroom to like the sex that they were assigned on their birth certificate or whatever, that would still cause issues. And me saying that just causes them to be like, oh no, we agree with you on that. So it feels like whenever I bring up like a point as to like against their side and stuff like that, and like try to like, hey, here's why that's actually not a good point, they instantly just flip-flop to my point.
Yeah. I think you're running into the tendency of like conservative and kind of like neoliberals to be like very conflict averse and to want everything to be very, you know, friendly and respectful of all sides in the dialogue. And so when you bring up counter arguments, they're inclined to really heavily be like, oh, if I push back, there's conflict here. So yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. And then it's like, but then you hear them the next day make the exact same point again, because they didn't actually agree with what you were saying. They were just kind of trying to avoid conflict. I think that's really, really, really common amongst Americans right now. It's extremely frustrating, and it makes me want to eat glass because, again, listen, we're all conflict averse at some point, right? Like nobody likes having a hard conversation with a spouse or a loved one or a parent or anything like that. But like, I do feel like I am personally more inclined to, and being trans, I think, you know, having to face such a difficult idea in your reality and like, do I want to accept this, kind of is going to select for people who are more inclined or less inclined to do the people pleasing and more inclined to be like, how do I solve? But yeah, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of empathy for you, but not a lot of solutions, because this is a very pervasive problem in society right now for which I don't know that there's a well-regarded solution, you know? Like, I think there's things that work for different people, and it's really subjective, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are probably going to have to move on, Maya, but if there's anything else you want to add before we let you go, I'd be happy to hear it, and then we'll let you go for the day.
I don't think I have anything else to add to the call. Thank you so much for taking the call and taking the time to talk with me. Trans rights are human rights. Thank you very much.
Right on. Woo. Thanks, Maya. You have a good day. Bye.
You as well. You both.
Oh, shit. I'm so sorry, Maya. I tried to hit it once. I tried to hit it once so I could let you talk, and I accidentally double clicked like a total asshole. Hopefully you're still watching and you hear me say I'm so sorry for doing that. I appreciated the conversation. Here, let me close out call in studio real quick, and then we're going to move on to our supers. It looks like the MTG one is what's winning, right?
Ooh. Yeah.
Listen.
Oh no, Congress must wear crop tops is at 39%, 38% for MTG.
Oh, they're fighting. Interesting. Yeah. Wow, I thought taco suck would be higher. Yeah, I think sometimes when people like don't agree with one of the punishments, even though that's the whole point. They're like, I can't vote for taco stock because tacos are too good.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. We are going to move on to super chats. Any super chat of $5 or more, we're going to read out live on air. So let's jump into it.
Support the show directly with your money.
Why are my buttons not working? What the hell?
Oh no.
They're like lagging. I hit the page over button and now it's just cycling through pages. Okay. Oh.
Cute.
Are we ready? Is it going to let me hit it now? Amazing. Okay.
Hey.
You want to go ahead and start?
Sure. £5 from Mystic Mind Analysis says Polynesian metal band have done 2 excellent songs on the addictive nature of social media. Nobody Here is one title and 1,000 Friends another title. Cool. Thank you for your donation.
Interesting.
No vote.
No vote. Shame. Cringe.
I said that too many times today.
10 neurotic Zerba dollars from Christina Henke, New Zealand. I had a job advert for a role that I would apply for. Travel to the US would be required once a year. I just went, hell no. It's sad to consider my safety when thinking about a job. # Team Arden. Yeah, I mean, it's so frustrating the way in which the US has like an influence on global politics too. Like the IOC caving to Trump because the next Olympics are supposed to be in the US and banning trans women unilaterally from competition, despite the fact that in 20 years of allowing them to compete, the one person who got the closest was Laurel Hubbard in 2020 at weightlifting, ostensibly the one where you should have the most biological advantage if there were one. And she came in 11th. They disqualified like 2 out of her 3 lifts because of the way she did it. I don't know. I don't watch fucking weightlifting because I'm a normal queer who hates sports. Just kidding. A little bit. Yeah, but it's so frustrating. Like even somebody in New Zealand, like the transphobia in the US is affecting you, and that's fucking stupid.
Yeah. Thank you for the $4.99 from Snardfluck. Says, I am the embodiment, smiley face. Thank you.
I love that for you. $10 from A Swallow for AZ. Hey, not gonna lie, I totally would flee as a trans person, but I've accepted the fact that I'll be sticking out. I'm even silly enough to run for Arizona State Rep LD 19. District 19, I'm guessing. # Team Arden. Thank you so much. Yeah, we talked to, I forget your first name, but Miss Swallow 2 weeks ago, right?
A couple times now.
Oh, a couple times now. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely love to see trans people running for office. It is so heavily needed right now.
Do it. Thank you for the $10 from Legally Mod, who says, because of America's low information/intelligence voter problem, I think their next candidate for POTUS has to be a middle-aged cishet white man with a documented history of casual racism and homophobia. I mean, that's the direction that's what Biden was, wasn't he? Like Biden was not middle-aged, he was super old. He was an old cishet white man with a documented history of casual racism and perhaps homophobia. Yeah, no, he opposed gay marriage. Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. Yeah.
I hate that that is an accurate description, that you need a casual relationship to being a bigot to get elected by the majority of people. I don't even think it's wrong. Like it's, I hate the world. $10 from Sentient Tree 6286 cis support MT.
From Montana?
Oh, from Montana. The world is wacky. Get out and camp where there's no phone service. # Team Void. Definitely. Honestly, I haven't been camping in ages. I do like a little bit of glamping with my camping, but last time I went really camping, it was with my sibling, and we slept in hammocks that I was able to zip up. That was great. I would do that again anytime because I'm like, I still feel protected from like the bugs and the elements, but also I'm roughing it a little bit. Hammocks are lovely. I could sleep in a hammock almost every night.
I should get one.
I'm sure it's like bad for your back or something, but
probably. I'll read this one and then I'll go find the cat. Somebody voted for the cat. $10 from Swallow for AZ says, almost everyone loves socialist policies, including Republicans. People just don't like the word socialist. The truth is red states are poorer and less funded. Hashtag Team Arden. Bro, red states are fucking the mooch in this country. Like California and other blue states have a net loss of taxes that they send to the federal government every year. Whereas these like red states are receiving like a net, like they're receiving more than they're giving in terms of welfare handouts and shit like that. Anyway, I'm gonna go find the cat.
Totally. California is like funding half of the red states. Also, it's funny, if you guys saw that Jubilee video where the fucking Nazi dude lost his job, yet he's got his fucking hand out for a handout that they're giving him. Disgusting. Kitty, hello, big baby.
Yes, he's immediately like, please put me down.
He's like, okay, I'm doing the face thing. Do you like the affection now, human? Please leave me alone.
Please leave me alone. Yeah, he was asleep too, poor boy.
Aw. $10 from, they took away your username because they're giving us the ats now. Doo-doo McButtface. Med education, Stanford, EDU define women as self-identifying as a woman or feminine. So yes, if you self-identify, not just seeing it, then you are a woman. Well, to be fair, so hashtag Zerba for line logo, hashtag SPN socks, hashtag love you soon. To be fair, we're talking about definitions here, right? Definitions describe how words are used. They don't prescribe how they ought to be. So I don't think that's a great argument against what that caller was saying. I would definitely never use that in that discussion. But I appreciate what you're saying, which is that our usage is so commonplace now that it's even making it into definitions. 100%.
Thank you for the $15 from Lady Darkness 9642. Says, thanks again for having me on. This channel, and sometimes Forrest, has really helped me and taught me new perspectives, confidence, and ways to think about things. Hashtag love from Minnesota. Hashtag Team Arden. Hell
also, Jessica did SB on Sucks. I'm going to consider that a vote for you because it's basically an anti-Arden vote. So.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
$10 from Swallow for AZ. Before I realized I was trans, I used to walk with my trans friends to the bathroom in trouble areas. It is so helpful. Cis allies are essential for trans acceptance. Hashtag Team Lux. Yeah, 100%. Honestly, I love the idea of a little like John Brown Gun Club group that's like, we will be the protective bubble around trans people. Listen, when I was doing more like protests back in my days, like right after college, before I really had an online presence, those people were the shit. I loved them. Whenever I saw them at protests, I'm like, you guys are the real ones. Like genuinely putting their safety and well-being on the line to make sure our message, our free speech is protected. Like sick as fuck.
Yeah. Thank you for the £5 from Sean Loves Maths. There are 3,684,030,417 different non-isomorphic semigroups with 8 elements, only 5 of which are groups. It took a PhD to work out the first number. Nice. I feel like I should get out a magic wand every time I do that.
Like, part of me hates scientists.
Leviosa.
I love you guys, but also fuck off. No, I'm just kidding. I watched a crazy video on the flight. I downloaded on YouTube on the way back from Cincinnati about how the pitch was gravity is not real. Obviously, that's not true, but that's kind of like there is a sense in which you can frame gravity as not being what we think it is or what it's been traditionally understood as. And really fucked with my brain. And I was like, God, I hate scientists. I thought I understood gravity and I don't at all. Like not even close. Like you just totally fucking rocked my world and I hate it. 5 more pounds from Sean Loves Maths. There are 52 trillion 989 billion 400,714,478 different semigroups with 9 elements, only 2 of which are groups. What? That took another PhD thesis. Okay.
I know nothing.
Whatever. Just kidding. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you for another $10 from Asola for AZ. Says, interesting for the caller to comment that women, quote, respect themselves by looking good. So women are required to dress nice, wear makeup, etc., and men just live. He had some weird logic. Hashtag Team Lux. Yeah, I mean, again, like, frankly, I think that his call would have almost been better placed on chewed gum. Like, he has a more basic problem with womanhood and stuff. Like, but then you would be like, yeah, but this doesn't apply to a bunch of gender non-conforming women. And then he'd be like, yeah, but actually I'm a biological essentialist. And it's like, God, I fucking hate you. Oh man.
Yeah, the bait and switch on that part. I feel like we could resolve that with another discussion. But yeah, it did feel a little bit like, yeah. Anyway, no need to belabor that point. $5 from Aaliyah Shauna Silverbow. Dear Tomris, since you are the only one who can determine someone's gender, what someone's gender is, please tell me what is my gender. Hashtag Tomris is confused. Hashtag Team Lux. I understand he was talking about society more generally, but I almost pointed out that I was like, you are kind of basically deciding your subjective opinion on whether or not somebody meets this criteria is it's like, who cares what your opinion is, Tomris? Like,
and the rabbit hole of him becoming a transvestigator, it's like, according to whom? Who gets to decide? Like, if two people are looking at me at the same time and one of them thinks I'm a woman and the other one doesn't, like, who is correct?
What is your gender?
Yeah, oh my God.
It is almost in a sense like the most liberated sense of gender, but also not at all, because that means you are whatever some random person fucking thinks you are. Like,
yeah, like literally no matter how much gender performance you put into looking like a woman, if I think your jawline is masculine, then you're a man. Like, oh my God. Deeply frustrating. Anyway, thank you for the $20 from Tina Alicia, who says, hashtag Team Arden Hart. First time catching the show live, hearts. Yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. $10 from Kia Star 67. Keep up the great work. We will do our absolute best. Listen, I've been bordering on crash out for like 3 years and I haven't hit it yet. So I think it's an illusion, the sense that you're near crash out. That's what I've determined. Just gonna keep going.
It's just the energy drinks keeping you barely afloat.
100%. I'm not even gonna deny that one.
Thank you for the $5 from Ace Wallet for AZ. Thank you again. Says, sending another chat because I want to support. Great calls. Hashtag Team Lux. I guess you're not allowed to self-fund your own campaign. Why are you sending us so much money?
Thank you so much, though. I do appreciate it. $4.99 from JW Edgy. I started performing as a homeowner. I think I need to call the police on the family living in my new home. Yeah, it is. Like, again, I think there's some domains in which it is almost the performance in and of itself that kind of makes the thing. I don't know if I can think of any good examples right now that would satisfy me. I have to sit on that for a while, but intuitively it feels like there's some things that could apply to. But in most cases, it falls apart. Like, I genuinely don't think a pilot is somebody who gets in a cockpit and happens to be behind a plane. If they successfully get you from point A to point B, I'm so glad you didn't die, but that doesn't make them a pilot. You know, like, they have zero training or education in this.
Yeah.
Likewise for doctors or police officers or homeowners or being a hiker. Like, it is not a reliable tool of evaluation.
I kind of wanted to jump on the firefighter thing too, because it's like, he was like, if you put out a fire once, you're not a firefighter. But if you fly a plane a few times, you are a pilot. But it's like, okay, so if you put out a fire once and whatever, then you're not a firefighter. But like, what if you go through all the firefighter training and you've just showed up to your first fire? Like, you're wearing all the gear, you've been through the training, but you've never put out a fire yet. Are you not a firefighter until you do that one fire? Are you not a firefighter until you do it 5 times? Like, the point of obviously that I'm making is that it's a spectrum, and that like conditional things like participation in behaviors is a poor metric by which to define all people. But anyway, yeah, it was annoying though.
No, I think, and it's interesting because kind of like being a man, right? Like having like a bar mitzvah or something, for example, like there's a sense in which going through all the qualifying things to be a firefighter, but not having fought your first fire yet, you are still a firefighter by one sense. But I would agree that once you fight that first fire, you have become a firefighter in a deeper sense, you know, like like you're saying, there is a spectrum to all of these things. And yeah, to boil it down to it is just the performance itself, I think it's just not a tenable way to construct like identifying people.
Yeah, that mindset and experience have nothing to do. They do not inform it whatsoever.
Yeah. Except they do when I phrase it a certain way, but also not. I have $5 from Quantum Chaos. I got to take my cast off so I can flip a coin. It landed on heads, but I forgot who assigns teams to two sides of the coin. So I guess hashtag Team Calasia. You just wanted to make me read all that to throw away your vote.
Hashtag mods. Thank you for the 10 Canadian from Alone in Winnipeg, I think is what that means. When cis people go through puberty, they find themselves. I went through male puberty and I lost myself. That should have told everyone something was wrong. But in the 2000s, trans people were basically invisible. Yeah, that's a great point too.
Yep.
No further comment.
Nope, not needed. You nailed it. $4.99 from Bramley CX. I agree. Magic the Gathering is the best congressperson. Hashtag Team Lux. That's pretty funny.
$4.99 from JW Edgy says, I'm done with gender. I just am. I thought I was non-binary. HRT making me think maybe I'm a woman. IDK, I'm tired of thinking and explaining it. I just am a person. Hashtag Team Lux. That's why I identify as agender.
It's interesting because I don't consider myself non-binary, but I would 100% agree with this. I absolutely don't care about whether or not I'm a woman in reality. Like, it's such a stupid, like, it does not interface with reality at all, whether or not I'm really this thing. Like, there's just no tangible way in which it affects anything about my life. And so I'm like, it's so dumb that we are forced to spend all this time defending this notion. Like, it's besides the point.
Yeah.
Total red herring.
Like you were saying up top, like, I don't even know who I would be right now if I wasn't forced to talk about trans politics and defend my existence for the last 12 years.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely have no idea what kind of career I would be in or what kind of person I would be if I didn't have to constantly, if there wasn't like a battleground here. Maybe I would be a less interesting person who doesn't know as many different things as I have had to learn in order to defend my existence as a trans person. But yeah, man, like there's crazy.
I had a discussion with somebody this past weekend at the expo who was like, you know, they were pointing out that like the nature of a lot of this, the kind of activism that you and I do here is reactive and not reactionary, but reactive. Like I'm not out here building structures to resist things, right? I am hearing what's coming down and being like, here's to you all what's going on in my understanding. Here's what I think we should do about it. It's very reacting to the environment. And they were like, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. That is needed, but it burns people out faster. And they were like, you know, what do you think you'd be doing if you weren't defending yourself all the time? And I was like, honestly, I really don't know. It's so much of my life has become this. And I know my therapist doesn't like that I spend so much time defending my existence. Like, it is not good for your mental health to spend all of your time being like, no, for real, I'm human and deserve to be treated like human. That's not good for anyone, right?
Nope.
But like, yeah, it's really not I don't know. It's really frustrating. Like, whether or not my position on gender makes me non-binary, I genuinely don't care. Like, it's so, besides, like, it's the whole structure of what they want to force trans people into. I'm like, that just doesn't apply. Like, your rules of how you operate things does not apply. And so I just don't care. Like, anyway.
Hell yeah.
But I've been reeling since somebody was like, oh, what you do is really reactive. Like, what would you do if you weren't doing this? I've been like genuinely thinking about it almost nonstop since they asked me that question. I'm like, I don't fucking know.
Come up here and establish a greenhouse with me. That's the productive thing that we can do.
I would love to have a greenhouse and to have farm animals. Oh my God. $5 from Borinth. Hashtag Team Lux. Have you seen Our Flag Means Death? It's a hilarious historical fiction about Blackbeard and a guy he's ... befriended, winky face, plus GRSM/NB rep named Jim.
I have not watched it. I've heard many things about it, but I am terribly resistant to watching the new show that everybody is talking about all the time. I don't know why. It just takes me a long time. It's like, and Our Flag Means Death isn't even on my list of like actually good media that I could look at for symbolism and interesting story. It's like, hey, this is fun for the F-slurs. And like, okay, cool. Yeah, maybe at some point I'll get into I'm just going to watch stuff that's fun for the F-slurs. But I mean, it doesn't really seem particularly complicated, and therefore I'm less likely to watch it.
Mm-hmm. I've heard in passing good things about it, but I also don't know anything. Part of me wants us to just start saying the slurs so bad. I mean, like, hold on, it's us. Can we please? Like, there's really nothing morally wrong with doing it, but I don't know. I don't feel
want to shock people. Sometimes I'll ease off of the hard slur just because I don't want people to be like, ah.
I know. I don't want to litigate it either. I'm just like, I don't care to litigate it. So whatever. $10 from Psycho Plebalian. Hashtag Team Lux. Hashtag Team Non-Binary. I am scared to talk to Planned Parenthood about possibly getting tea. This might be the second time I chicken out. Not sure if it's something I need, but it would be nice to pass as more mask. I mean, not trans mask, but my 2 cents is you can always like start a little and stop if you don't like the way things are going. I think, is it true, Lux? Maybe you have more input on this. I know my sibling was using testosterone gel for a while because that was like a slower absorption rate and they were able to do a lower dose, because my sibling was also like, I want to have a little mustache, but I don't want to be a man. And so that was kind of their approach to why they did like just small amounts of androgel. I don't know how accurate that is.
I mean, there are lots of different low dose options, and that, yeah, I always say like you can try it for a month and see how it goes, and you don't have to continue past that point. And you don't have to necessarily do your full dose the entire time. Like if you end up doing every other day of gel instead of every day, like I don't think that that's going to really hurt you very much. I mean, obviously talk to your doctor about it, but yeah, you can try it for a little while. You can try a low dose of gel, or you can try like a low dose of injection. Like the injection still seems like the most efficient way to get it in your system, and like putting it on your skin, you have to like be careful not to get it on anybody else, including when it's dried. Like it can still transfer. So it's just like there's considerations to be made for both sides of it. But yeah, the main point is like, yeah, try it for a month. It will not kill you, probably. Like put a little legal caveat for myself. You'll probably be fine if you take it for a month and then quit. $5 from Space Barbarian 3484 says, ugh, the patriarchy is a bitch. Hashtag not Team Romus. Is that supposed to be about Tomris?
Yeah, I think so.
Not Team Tomris. Okay, cool.
Sounds good. Thank you. Also, thanks. Not Team Tomris. $5 from It's Me, Haley G. 4 years ago at this time, my egg was shattering and I ran to a trans support group for help. This past Monday night, I led that same group. Hashtag Team Arden. Oh, I'm so glad. That's so awesome. I will say the trans support groups in my area when I was first coming out were like really life-saving and helping me to kind of like feel like a part of a broader community. It's still in my local area, even though I don't have as many trans friends that I see in person on a day-to-day basis nowadays. Like, it was definitely really helpful early on, and I definitely highly recommend anyone else in that position to consider joining a group like that.
$5 from Alyashana Silverbow says, still out of good jokes, so just punchlines, Minnesota. It's not Stroganoff, because if they flew over the bay, they would be bagels. Hashtag Team PNW, hashtag Team Lux. Nice.
Bagels, I guess. Okay.
Bagels.
I'm sorry, Alyashana.
I'm dumb.
The puns are never going to land with me the same way. $5 from a Fry Jimmy. Where does tomboy fit on the trans/intersex spectrum? They don't necessarily. Somebody can be a tomboy and not trans or intersex at all. Just like somebody can be a femboy and not trans or intersex at all. It is really it's a self-description of like kind of how you understand your gender. So
it's under the very broadest umbrella of gender nonconforming, which includes many trans people. But yeah, I think most tomboys are like, I'm a girl. I just don't want to be fit into the girl box. Let me be a girl and do boy things. Mm-hmm. Whereas non-binary and trans people are like, how dare you say I'm going to grow boobs someday? I'm going to freak out now. Like there's two different things going on there.
Yep.
Is this one mine? I don't know.
I don't know. $5 from Lady Darkness, 9642. I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 this month, and Shadowheart is my favorite character. That's my excuse for another vote for Team Arden Hart. Isn't that usually an excuse to not vote for me? I mean, thanks. Even though your taste in games is bad. No, just fucking I can't help but being toxic. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, especially about video games. God, you're such a bro. $5 from Firesonic says, this is Maya. No hard feelings on hanging up. I was just saying that I hope both of you have a great day. Hope to chat again, as today was very helpful. Yes.
I'm so glad
that you were just saying have a good day.
Yeah. 999 from JW Edgy. Arden's hypothesis that more people don't want to vote for tacos because they disagree with the prompt is a passive admission. She thinks that more of his chat likes Marjorie Taylor Greene. # Team Arden. That, you're right. That doesn't totally make sense. But it's weird because I would think if you guys just want to see us suffer, that voting for tacos suck would be like really high because I'm sorry, but if you say you don't like tacos, I like don't really believe you. I'm like, okay, this person's a liar or a sociopath. No, just fucking with you guys. Toxic
Arden. There wasn't enough spicy calls today, so now you're just taking it out on the audience.
Yeah, for real. That's how you guys know I love you.
Yeah, I'm sitting here trying not to take it out on someone in chat who's like, Luxander, non-binary people don't always have physical dysphoria. Like, that was a conversation from a chatter who was asking about going on T because they're non-binary. And also, I've been a non-binary activist for 15 fucking years. Shut up.
That's so weird.
$10 from Tribe Tricks, who says, missed most of the show today, but will catch it once it's done. Crying. Also, chosen family can be so much better than the one you were saddled with at birth. # Team Arden. True. Yes, facts. I'm in the process of building a chosen family, hopefully getting more friends. I'm trying to meet people locally and I'm really bad at it. So I should join one of those support groups.
$10 from Mr. Boricua 10. Oh, fuck me. Mm-hmm. Good show today. Couldn't chat because work. Glad to have caught it this week. Add a bit of spice, but enjoyed the show. Also, the fascist Jubilee is a knob. # Void Kitty.
Thank you. Are they talking about the guy who got fired? He went on Jubilee and was like, LOL, I'm a fascist. And then he lost his job and he's like, QQ, cry. I need to GoFundMe now.
When you walked away, I brought it up because we were talking about handouts or whatever at the time. And I mentioned like, oh yeah. And also that they love handouts when they can get them for each other. Call a child the N-word? Please give us money. Get fired because you say you're a Nazi? Please give us money. Any other time, though, where people actually need it, no.
Yep. $4.99 from Bramley CX, who says, do I buy a trans Zerba shirt or hat? # Team Rock, Paper, Scissors. I mean, I would wear a shirt more often than I would wear a hat, so that's my
head is shaped weird. I can't wear hats.
No. Oh, no.
It's like deceptively long. Every hat I try to wear just can't really fit around the crown of my head the right way, and it just never looks right. So I just don't really wear hats. I actually
think that might be partially. So this is, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second here. Bicycle helmets are being made differently now because we have like a generation of kids who were mostly left to lie down for a long period of time as a baby. And so the back of their skulls are shaped different. So people like us who like from a different generation where our parents would like pick us up when we cried, we have like a protrusion on the back of our skull, which is normal, but they're actually making bicycle helmets that like don't fit people who are older because of this generational thing. Yeah. So it might be
Weird.
You might just be like dealing with like hats that are not designed for a person who was picked up and carried as a baby.
Bizarre. Oh, I guess you also have to rock paper scissors. All right, ready? Rock paper scissors shoot.
Scissors.
You got
paper. It. Yeah.
All right, cruising along. We've got $5 from Jessica here, £5. I forgot to vote, but if hashtag SP on sex is now regarded as an anti-Arden vote, I think Lux is due about 20 points this month. Hashtag Team Lux 21. Fair.
Thank you for the $5 from SJL, who says YouTube is apparently displaying handles now instead of display names. Change your handle to get your display name showing again. Hashtag Team Puppy or Cat.
Neither of us have a puppy.
No.
We both have cats.
Nil vote.
Usually Void is considered the vote for Lux because that's what its cat's name is. I have Daphne, but I'm not going to bring Daphne in here most of the time. On the off chance she's sitting right outside the door, it might work, but I can't guarantee that.
Can't guarantee you'll be able to find her.
Yeah, I'm not going to go search. Because if she's on top of like a reptile enclosure downstairs, I'm not pulling her down for this shit. All right. I'm not sure who that's a vote for, so I guess nil.
Nil vote. Yeah, nil.
5 Canadian dollarinos from Blue Screen Gwen responding to Tom about performing to be a man. What a man identifies as a woman. Not very manly behavior. It sounds like a woman to me. Hashtag Team Arden. Kind of true though, right? By his own model. Like it's kind of absurd. Yeah.
He believes in like a conglomerate non-binary gender that the majority of people are. Like,
and there's like a part of that I agree with.
Strata. Yeah.
But okay. Moving on.
Thank you for the 5 Canadian from Ayla Ursus, who says hashtag Team Lux 42. It is truly the meaning of life and everything.
Wonderful. We also are about to get some spam, so I'm trying to figure out how I can add them all in here. I might start making a rule to make a vote a value dependent because while it's funny, I kind of hate the spam. And also,
I think they do like 5 different ones.
Yeah, it's a little bit annoying for how the structure works, but you guys like annoying me and I like annoying you, so that's not a big deal. It's a little bit also about, I think we might, I don't know. Anyway, another 5 from Ayla Ursus, Team Lux 144. I don't think I gave you that last point either, so.
How dare.
How dare.
I'm very upset. Thank you for another 5 from Ayla Ursus, hashtag Team Lux 666. True. Thank you.
Love that for you. $5 from Lady Darkness 9642. I just remembered something I want to ask last week. When's the next collab with Jovan? Hashtag Team Arden. We were actually supposed to do it today, but between we had to pick a friend up from the airport this morning, and I'm leaving tomorrow for a whole trip. I was like, I'm home the next like 2 months, normal schedule where we can find places to do that. So I was like, all right, let's cancel this week. But I know we're both big into Marvel and we're both going to be seeing Fantastic Four. So I'm sure we'll be excited to dish over how that goes. Probably maybe next week or the week after, I'm guessing. I know next week is busy because we're having Xena on Friday and I have to make that happen, but we'll see.
Nice. Thank you for the 5 Canadian from Ayla Ursus, hashtag Team Lux Spam. True.
So true. $5 from Ayla Ursus, Team Lux 69. Hold on, let me add these here and get you that point.
$5 from Melatonin Ale says, hashtag Team Arden, someone at work scheduled reoccurring meetings during my dedicated TACIS time. I should have just blocked out my calendar. True. Priorities.
It happens. Listen, that's okay if you not a true fan who would throw out your job for watching us. No, I'm just kidding.
How dare.
Don't throw out your job, please, God. Especially not for anything I say. $5 from Lady Darkness 9642. Did someone say hashtag Team Arden? You did just now, you crazy cat, you. Oops, I went to 13, not 12.
Thank you for the 5, Canadian from Ayla Ursus. Hashtag Team Lux 13. Very nice.
And we have another one from Ayla Ursus, Team Lux 77.
I love the random numbers. We're not even trying to count consecutively anymore. We're just doing random numbers that sound significant. $5 from Lady Darkness says one more for the road. Hashtag Team Arden.
Thank you so much. Somebody said Warrior Princess. No, not that Xena. Xena Weena from TikTok and Instagram. She's been on a bunch of viral stuff lately. She is super fucking good at what she does. And also, she makes content for women a lot about like reality TV, which I just really like. It's nice when somebody who's really smart and good at debating also is like not feeling like they need to appeal to a male audience 100% of the time.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know her. I'm going to have to check her out.
She's great.
$5 from Lady Darkness says, I take back what I said after that comment. Hashtag Team Lux.
That's fair. Honestly, I get it. $10 from Perfectly Floorward. If you change your name to Floorward, that's so good. Hashtag Team Lux. Our fucking shit posting-esque a way of approaching you guys is influencing how you label yourselves, and that's so funny to me.
Quantos Nachos.
Quantos Nachos.
Yeah, they changed their Blue Sky handle.
Did they really? Oh my god.
They did. Or maybe just their display name. Regardless, they changed it on Blue Sky. $4.99 from JW Edgy says, my close friend is going on Jubilee. He just flew out for it. I had to keep my opinions of them to myself. Hashtag Team Ardux. True. That would be our ship name, I guess. It's so cringe going on Jubilee. Like, I hope they're paying you good money and also that they're still taking any COVID precautions on their weird sets.
I have so many mixed feelings about it. I saw Mehdi Hassan talking about how he can't talk about what happened in filming that didn't make it to the final cut. And I'm like, that's so fucked up. Like, you're going to be like, NDA. Oh, we want to be the Disney of empathy. We want to just connect people and have dialogue of all like perspectives and make people understand each other. And I'm like, first of all, not only do I think that idea is fucking stupid fundamentally, but also you're not going to allow people to be honest about what shit you cut out. That is monumentally fucked up to me. Like, that is you like admitting...
If you're being misrepresented, you just have to not say anything.
Yeah. In particular, it was with like this one guy who was like, claimed that he never went up to talk to Mehdi and that it was because Mehdi smelled. And Mehdi was like, I can't comment on the outcome of the edit, but I can tell you that this man is lying. And so we're all like, that's so frustrating. Like, it just like, it does nothing for empathy or dialogue at all. It's abuses prejudice to get clicks, honestly.
Yeah. Shady outrage marketing.
$5 from Lady Darkness 9642. Hashtag Team Ballot Stuffers. Is that me? Because I accidentally gave myself 12 instead of 13 at that one, or 12 instead of 11 at that one point.
I have no idea.
I'll take it. You're blowing me out of the water. We only have 2 more anyway.
Canadian 5 from Quantum Nachos says, I was just at Costco and the person who checked my receipt was named Arden. So I guess that was a sign, the god, hashtag Team Arden. True.
Thanks.
Serendipity.
Oh, I got to meet Sasha Sagan at the Secular Student Alliance convention this past weekend.
Yeah.
First of all, she's fucking awesome. She's totally trans ally. And was so like, she wasn't able to see my talk. She was leaving, but she was like, oh, I'm so glad you're doing that. That's so needed. I'm so sad about like Dawkins and Harris and all them. And she told me, well, maybe I shouldn't say that. Never mind. I don't know if I can. I feel like that's the kind of thing you can divulge in person, but I'm not sure if she would want me divulging that information to the internet. So I apologize for like being a tease, but I'm realizing in real time that maybe that's not my business to be putting on the internet. So.
But she was cool, which is
she was really cool. Part. I loved her. Her workshop was great. Her whole thing is like rituals from a secular perspective. So we were like doing this exercise of describing human rituals, like as if we were trying to describe them to an alien with had like zero context. And some of them were just so absurd, like describing like the tooth fairy or Christmas or like proposing to someone, like these weird rituals that we engage in. And we're like, why do we do all those things? It's so bizarre, but yet it does also like give a lot of meaning in some ways to a lot of people. So anyway, 5 pounds from the fuzzy logic. Don't quit your job over anything I say. Now you tell me, Arden. Already putting in my notice. # Team Arden anyway. No, definitely don't take my advice on anything like that. Then last super chat with no vote. Just a bunch of gay hearts.
Many rainbow hearts. Thank you, Invader Tim too. True.
I guess I have lost, and I have to defend. Is it the crop tops position?
Wow. Yeah, crop tops won
by a good margin. I don't understand you guys sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, okay, that's totally what I thought. I totally know our audience, and then you guys pull me some shit like this, and I'm like, what? All right, let me get that. The debate stage set up. Host right is the winner. Host left is the big stinky loser. And the topic is Congress must wear crop tops. Okay. I am ready.
Wait for this one.
We are charging up the clock in 3, 2, 1. All right, listen. We have long held tradition in the halls of our great bodies of legislators here in the United States of dressing in weird ways to sort of do a ugly heterosexual drag contest to explain why we are going to make the laws that we're going to make. And I realized that suit and ties, these like beige, neutral, earthy tone outfits have long reigned in the halls of Congress, but no more. I am proposing a new requirement for that all members of Congress must attend work every day in a crop top. I don't want to see a crop top with, suit pants. I mean, actually, I'm not going to rule it out because you can make it work. You probably need a queer person on your styling team, everyone, because I don't really trust straight people to get this right. But I mean, I need you to look like an Essler every day at work, okay? I need you to be strutting in, like voguing. I want arms moving. And this is how you're going to start making your case, okay? First of all, we're not having nearly enough fun in the halls of Congress, and that is why all these miserable people are doing all these miserable things to people for like virtually minimal benefit to themselves. I mean, they're basically held hostage by corporations and super PACs. But if you're looking gay as fuck every day at work and you're dancing, you're going to be like, I don't really care that AIPAC owns me. I'm going to say no on funding the Iron Dome. I'm going to say no on sending bombs to Israel. Any queer worth their salt when they're voguing is not going to be able to vote for such awful things. And I think that's just going to ultimately result in a better society where we look out for more people if you are having fun and dancing while you are making laws that affect the entire U.S. constituency. That is my TED Talk. Thank you.
Yay.
Those 2 minutes went so fast. I was like, I looked down at the clock and saw it was like 10 seconds left. I was like, oh, no, I was gonna add more. No time. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here today. Who do I have on deck next week? Is that next month, next Thursday?
No, it's the last day of this month, next Thursday.
Okay. It's Josie and
what
Ben.
Is our programming? Yeah.
I should do a quick rundown. So of the next week, if you want to watch this Sunday, will be Matt and Eve on the early show. Matt and Promise. She's still an Eve in our official files. I don't know why. It'll be R and Raw with a guest unconfirmed for Monday. It'll be Alyssa and Taylor on Skeptalk, or on Chewed Gum, my bad, on Tuesday. Matt will be on Wednesday on the Hang Up. We also haven't confirmed his guest yet, but it'll be Josie and Ben back here next week. So maybe if you didn't like our perspectives and you want to talk to some other trans folks, that is a good opportunity to do that. But thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for the callers, for engaging in the audience and the mods, and Jess, our amazing call screener. I genuinely appreciate you guys so much. Go check out Lux's channel and my channel and all of our other stuff. I'm going to go watch Fantastic Four.
Hell yeah.
Hey, if you want to get your name on this awesome list, join our Patreon, patreon.com/calltheline. We've brought back our exclusive patron Zoom Q&A sessions. Those are going to turn into like mini little talks. We're also getting ad-free episodes of the podcast over there. So lots of cool things for you, and you get to help us do all the amazing stuff we do here. So thank you guys so much. We'll see you all next week.